Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 130 on SIFTD Games at SIFTD.net. This is our flagship show, and our flagship show is back on Friday night.
For now.
Had to sacrifice a few days to get here, but Matt and I have been playing some stuff. We wanted to make sure we could talk about it on the show. Also with the long holiday weekend last weekend, it kind of kicked us back a little bit, but it seems like on Fridays we get bigger crowds on the stream. People can actually stay up late and watch it because they don't have to work the next day. So it's good to be back on Fridays.
Or get up early if you're in Europe.
Yeah, I guess someone just said they're in Europe and it's 2 a.m. So
either you're up early or you're staying up all night.
Yeah. But we're back on Fridays, and I think we'll be doing Friday next week as well. Just 2 episodes left, tonight and next Friday, before E3 kicks off. Is that right?
Yeah, the 10th is the first press conference.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So yeah, next Friday will be the last one. We're going to talk about some big games today. We're going to start doing our E3 previews. We're going to talk about the big three today on the show, that being Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Going to get you prepped for what to expect from the show from those guys. A couple big games to talk about. A couple things we should just talk about off the top that we don't even have room in the show for. Brand new Sonic kart racing game was announced this week. Any impressions of that real quick?
I liked the last one, so I'll take a look at this one. I mean, I'm a little disappointed it's more Sonic than Sega.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
And
looks
then,
nice.
And then yesterday, Assassin's
Walmart,
Creed.
Get a hold of your shit.
Yeah, man. I love Walmart. It's great. They're helping me prep for the show better than anyone ever has. And then yesterday, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was leaked, and then Ubisoft was like, screw it, we'll put out the teaser.
Here's a Sparta meme. Go.
Yeah, it was essentially just a dude getting kicked off a cliff, like 2 seconds long. So not worth talking about in the show, but we did want to mention them as some of the big things that happened this week.
And then like there's a whole thing with, they said fiscal year, so it might be next year. It might be
Could be
March.
Before March of next year.
So, well, I know a lot of people...
How do you feel about the fact that they're getting back on that annual train with Assassin's Creed?
Great, I like a yearly Assassin's Creed.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it started to go sour, though, because of that.
It went sour because they had no unifying goal and vision for the series. If they've found a new format and are going to make all the different teams that work on these things stick to it and continue to iterate and advance and keep... Because that was a problem. They were just letting all the teams in the old, especially in the Ezio days, just sort of do whatever they wanted. You know, like Revelations in particular was just like, what the hell? It doesn't fit in the series at all.
It seemed like Ubisoft did not have an IP Bible.
Right. And I think if they unify it, they found a new format that works in Origins. Clearly, this game was not suddenly thrown together in the last 8 months or something.
Not, yeah.
It's been worked on in tandem with Origins. Great. I really liked Origins. It was a little much at a certain point. Like it was a long game.
Big ass game. Yeah.
But I like Bayek and Aya, and so. If there's more of this, there's rumors about that they're back as the playable characters. There might be new characters you're playing. Who knows? One way or the other. I'm in. Ancient Greece is a cool setting. I've seen some weird commentary about how why would they call it Odyssey after Super Mario? Just call it. It's just like because it's ancient Greece.
Also, because there are certain words that are used over and over as gaming subtitles, and Odyssey is one of them. It's not like...
Is it?
Yeah.
I can't really think of it.
Like, I know this stuff because when I work in the admin on SIFTD, like, sometimes I'll just search for one word and it'll pull up all the games.
I can't... What are some of the others? Albert Odyssey, but that was on the Saturn.
Yeah.
Arcus Odyssey is a little-known JRPG. I think Odyssey is pretty minimal.
Yeah,
it's not like Origins.
Yeah.
It's like
you're right.
Origins or Vengeance or something.
Judgment.
Judgment.
You could go on and on. But I don't know. I think maybe why I was put off a little bit by it being announced that it's coming out this fiscal year is I remembered back to what happened back when it was in that yearly cycle and things got pretty nasty. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't like the direction of the games or the setting of the games. It was just that the games were really buggy and kind of broken.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was really only Unity. And Unity was sort of where the system broke down finally.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember, like Assassin's Creed 3 was the Assassin's Creed 2 team, and they were working on that since they finished Assassin's Creed 2, which is a normal dev cycle.
Yeah.
But the part of the problem is some of the ideas that were integrated into the game in Brotherhood and Revelations did not make it into Assassin's Creed 3, so it felt like a step back. So the issue is like they have to be willing to unify.
But there was tree
everything.
climbing, man.
Right. Which then made it into every single game after that. Like they used that same tree animation for forever after that. I just think the key is that they can't have the mandate to release them every year. If they have an idea and everything's running smooth and they got everything on the same page and they can do another one yearly, great. But if you hit a point where you're like, okay, we need to slow down and figure out where we are right now, take a year off, like do that. Like I'm hoping that's the lesson they learned. There's no reason that, like, the yearly schedule itself was not the reason they were lessening in quality. The problem was that, like, Ubi just couldn't keep track of where everything was.
Yeah.
And it was spiraling out of
I mean,
control. And supposedly it was a mandate from Ubi headquarters, like, an Assassin's Creed has to come out every year, hell or high water, and that's how something like Unity happens.
Yeah. I mean, Syndicate was a pretty clean game. I didn't love it, but it was relatively bug free.
I liked it, and also once Unity got patched up, it was a pretty good game too.
Yeah.
It was not one of the best ones, but it's better than 3.
Well, when you have that many, it's
Yeah.
it's hard to be one of the best ones.
There's a big because I was looking through my Uplay account or my Club Ubis or whatever it is now. I don't know. And it's like, I have all the Assassins. I played all of them. I think all of them 100%. Like that's my favorite series of the last generation. And like once you get into the Chronicles stuff, it's just like, it just goes on and on and on and on.
It's been a lot. Series. I mean, you think about the series is only about 10 years old. You think about how many games have been released in that series already. It's crazy.
So once a year is actually less than what they were doing. That's not even counting like the terrible handheld games.
Right. Yeah.
There were 2 games on the DS.
Yeah, I know. they have milked that franchise for all it's worth. And continue to, apparently, with another game coming out this year.
Yeah. Well, I like that they've gone kind of Witcher 3 in terms of formatting with it, and I think that works so far. Yeah. I'm hoping that this is not just like a reskinning into ancient Greece, and this is like, they've had an extra year, so maybe they've incorporated some ideas that didn't make it into Origins. I feel like there's got to be stuff that didn't make it into Origins that they can now do with this. Get ready for some chariot racing. I feel like there's going to be a lot more. I mean, that was in Origins, but I feel like there's going to be more of an emphasis now.
Yeah.
And then buckle up for Ancient Rome in 2020, I guess. I don't know. Seems like the next step.
It does, absolutely.
I'm hoping we eventually get to one that takes place in like the Aztec Empire or something like that, like Aztec or Incan, like in the height of.
There's a lot of mystery behind those civilizations.
Yeah, well,
for whatever reason, they've not been able to really nail down a lot of the historical information of that culture.
They know a fair amount about it. I mean, it gets more and more as you go, but part of the problem is there's not a ton of written records, and the Europeans kind of burnt the whole thing to the ground. It's like there was no effort to preserve anything, so we're kind of working from rubble.
Yeah.
But I think there's something that like takes like an Aztec like peak of the Aztec Empire thing could be some really cool stuff. That's some hardcore archaeology background work, but
they're good at that.
Assassin's Creed is not afraid
That's
of
what
that.
it does. Yeah.
And I would like to see them keep doing the thing they did with Origins, where they had like kind of the walk around and get told by Egyptologists about the very that was a cool thing.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
So I'd like to see them keep that level of historicity, historical authenticity to it. Like I can see no reason you wouldn't do that in ancient Greece. I hope they do the thing in ancient, because one of the things about ancient Greece that people don't necessarily know is that all those beautiful alabaster white statues were painted up like cartoon characters back then.
Oh, really?
They were all Roman and Greek statues were painted very colorfully.
Really?
You can see the paint kind of fading on. So they did not look all these austere kind of houses of the
Wow.
holy
I did
album
not
cover
know
thing.
that.
No, they're painted up like
garishly
yeah.
painted.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
They look. If you saw them today, you'd be like, "What's wrong with? Why would you have that in your house?"
Interesting.
But with like eyeballs and everything. So if they do, and that was also in Origins to some degree. Like the statues were painted. They painted the statues to look like people.
Wow. All right. Well, with that, it's time to get on the show. On with the show. We have a huge show today. We're going to do our best to try to keep the time of the show down as much as possible. We've been kind of short over the last few episodes. Last week was close to 3 hours. I have a feeling this one's going to hit it. So kick those feet up, get yourself a beverage of choice, and get ready to go, because we are ready to dig in. Our first topic this week is a game that maybe we're a little late on this one, because we recorded the last show, and then it came out that day, I think.
Came out that night.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And so it's Detroit Become Human. This game started as a tech demo to basically show off what was possible with PlayStation 4. People got so into the demo, it eventually turned into a game. The next game from Quantic Dream and David Cage. I have not played this. I played the demo, but Matt, you've been digging into it all week.
Well, I want to say all week. It's like
Do tell, Matt Kyle.
I'm about, I think, between a third and a halfway through it, and I kind of stopped playing it because
You stopped.
I just don't care. Here's the thing: it's gorgeous. Like the game is beautiful. The tech on display is amazing. The facial capture is like nothing else I've seen in just about anything. Like almost, and like if you've played Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, you've kind of seen kind of the similar approach. But like the use of depth of field is incredible. The use of skin texture and the translucency of skin with like the blood vessels beneath them is incredible. Subfacial musculature, lines in the skin. Everything like that is unbelievably well done.
That's almost photorealistic. I mean, it is really, really. Look at that face.
And like, I don't think. So I've played like a bunch of 10, 12 chapters or something. I don't think I've ever seen anything clip through anything.
Really?
In the game. Like I don't think I've seen a clipping error. I don't think I've seen any. I mean, I've seen like physics stuff where things fall over or whatever, but like.
Yeah.
Like where you see like a hand doesn't grasp an object properly. Like, I don't think I've seen a single error like that.
Wow.
The problem is,
you have to actually play it.
David Cage still wrote it, and and the thing is, like, there's the elements of it that are interesting. Like the gameplay is basic. If you've played Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls, it's very similar. It's the same kind of like the little button prompts come up and you have to hold them or press them, and kind of a quick time event idea. It's a little less demanding, I think. There's action scenes where you have to do stuff, or if you screw up too much, the characters can die. Just like Heavy Rain, and like I've done a couple of those, and like you get a few chances. Like there's the first real scene that's. I mean, actually, I guess you can die in some surprise. You can the Connor guy, the detective android. So the demo, which is the investigate the hostage situation on the penthouse or whatever that is, that's the first thing in the game.
Oh, it is.
That's the
beginning.
That's the very beginning of the game.
Oh, okay.
And
you never know where those demos are coming from.
No, and you can actually die in that. There's if you play it, I guess wrong would be the way. If you play it like real tough guy.
What does that mean? Play it wrong?
It means like if you basically play the situation wrong, where he has to tackle the android off the roof. That's the end of Connor's story.
The android dies.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the little girl.
No. Well, that can happen too.
Oh, okay.
So every chapter has a flow chart you can look at while you're playing it or afterwards, and anything you do is unlocked, and it also shows you like alternate choices you didn't take, and then anything you didn't find yet is locked. Some of the flow charts are crazy expansive. Like they.
I can see that just from the demo.
But like they tend to railroad you back to one or two to three choices of how something ends. The more interesting things are every once in a while you run into something that it'll have a little yellow unlock thing on it, and that is something that will impact something later in another chapter. And they've been very minor things. If like if you play the demo, there's a cop that's been shot on the roof near the android, who's the deviant android, and you can go over and try to help him, and the android says leave him alone. If you ignore him and help the guy and get him to the medics, he will show up in a later chapter and thank you for saving his life. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things like where all that kind of stuff like kind of fits together is interesting. Some of the investigation stuff I think is interesting, like piecing together what happened and choosing the dialogue options to kind of. Because you're teamed up, the android, the Connor, the investigation android is teamed up with a gruff, aging homicide detective who's played by Clancy Brown, who is it's one of the best performances in the game. The two best performances in the game so far, at least, are Clancy Brown and Lance Hendrickson. Probably
Big
not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown is like, first off, the character looks exactly like him, and like sometimes it's just like you're watching Clancy Brown act.
Wow.
In a game, like it's
pretty
uncanny. Like the tech is incredible, but like he's a grizzled old homicide detective cop with a drinking problem and a tragic past. and he doesn't like androids, and now he's got an android for a part. I wouldn't surprise me if he's 2 days from retirement. Like it's like the game is so riddled with cliches,
tropes, and
it's like there's if you've seen the demo from, I guess it was Gamescom last year with the cartoon abusive father.
Yeah, we were showing that earlier actually. Yeah.
That dude is a dick from minute one, and like at all times for no reason he's just a jerk, and like you'll pass him in the hallway doing like chores and stuff. But yeah, that's like the first hour of the game they got you like cleaning dishes, like because it's a David Cage game, right?
Yeah.
And like you pass him in the hall and he just like pushes you against the wall. He's like, "Get out of my way!" It's like, bro, I've seen the little like document things and stuff in this game. These androids cost like $8,000.
No,
like
that's what I don't understand.
stop pushing your freaking.
So
would you
we were looking
like
at this clip earlier. He's living in a dump of a house, yet he has an android.
He has this $8,000 android that he treats like, and like when you come back to the house, it's because he had you in to be repaired because he ripped your arm off or something.
Oh, jeez.
And it's like an event, obviously you've seen that demo, like, it all goes to hell in a couple of chapters and you have to escape with the little girl and there's like 14 different ways to do that. Which is cool. It's cool that there's all these different ways to do things. It does feel like you're still railroaded into the kind of the story outcomes to some degree, but it does feel like you have a larger amount of choice in how things play out, and trying to figure out how the different ways to do things is actually pretty good, except for the fact that when you replay a chapter, most stuff you can't skip, I think because it's masking a lot of loading.
Right.
So you can't just skip to the part that you need to do there's checkpoints you can load from, but you got to sit and watch all the dialogue again for the most part, which I think some people will not have the patience for, especially because the dialogue's not very good. And so you've got all this stuff like that, and then like you escape from the guy. There's like a bunch of different ways you can escape from him. And you are kind of on the run, and then the next chapter you have to wander around with the little girl trying to find a place to stay for the night. And once you do that, I know I said do that. Once you do that, there's a scene where the little girl sits down and kind of does, everything's kind of processing everything, and it's like, I don't know why he's always so angry. He wasn't angry before mommy left. It must be my fault. It's like every ABC after-school special cliche about an abused child, like. She just lists every single thing for like a minute. Right. It's not even a dialogue sequence. She just sits there and rattles off like 14 sentences, any one of which would have been a fine thing to say in that situation for a child in that situation. But you can't say all of them because then it's just comedic. Like it's real. It becomes absurd. Like the Marcus, the android, I think he was kind of the poster android to some degree. He's the black android who kind of has the revolutionary look to him in the commercials.
Yep.
He starts as Lance Henriksen's servant android, like his assistant, because Lance Henriksen is basically a dying old man, and he's a famous painter, and a very rich man, and like there's actually a nice sequence where like when it's not being dramatic and there's some stuff where it's just like two characters kind of interacting, it's kind of nice. Like I would like to play a game where I just live with Lance Henriksen and help him paint paintings. It was fun. I like that part. But like he tries to teach the android, he tries to teach Marcus how to paint, and so Marcus paints a thing like basically a still life, and he's like, well, that's exactly a good copy of what that is. But now close your eyes and paint what you feel. He's trying to teach the android to feel, which is never a good idea.
Right. Yeah.
But like,
that's a huge mistake.
But like, that's where if you've seen the Twitter memes.
Well, he's gonna die anyway. He doesn't care what happens.
Yeah. Well, it's like you've seen the Twitter memes where it's like press X to identity, press circle to despair. It's like you're picking the theme of the painting. So that's sort of the press X to Jason equivalent for this game. And then of course Lance Henriksen's wayward son, adult son, busts in. And he's just like, I need cash, Dad, and like, and he's like, you're on the drugs again, and it's just, and it's like, you love the android more than me, and it's just like, guys, could you not hit every single cliche on the fall down the ladder, please?
Yeah.
And and he has to go find the resistance group, and the resistance group is a bunch of ragtag androids living in a warehouse, and they call themselves Jericho, and it's just like, and it's just, and like then it's just. It's so pretentious for no reason because it's not really covering any new ground, but it could have. It's just frustrating that all this tech is in the service of this pedestrian idea. It's pedestrian. It's not even a pedestrian idea. It's a pedestrian way of writing it. Stop letting David Cage write his own games because you start getting into this like slavery parallel and like the civil rights parallel, which is obvious. I mean, it's right there, but like. the title screen is like this weird close-up of this female android who just like looks around your room and comments on your decor. I mean, it doesn't actually use the camera or anything.
Right.
But she's like, I really like your decor. I really like it.
I like your couch.
And it's like, I'm an SX200 android. I just thought you might like to. It's like a really awkward date, and like I don't know why that's the menu screen. Like it's very weird. And she kind of has this worried look. Like, I don't know, like when I finish the game, is she gonna rebel and like reach out and strangle me? Or like what's going on?
How is the game structured, Matt? So there's 3 playable characters?
3 playable characters, and it basically alternates between them at first. So it goes Connor to Kara, who's the abusive father android, and Marcus, who is the Lance Henriksen. So it alternates between them, and fairly quickly they start crossing paths. So like, because the story with Connor and the police stuff is that and there's been a huge rash of androids going deviant, they call it, and attacking or assaulting or escaping from their masters or whatever. And he's trying to solve it with Clancy Brown, and Clancy Brown doesn't want the help. He doesn't need the help of this, and it's so predictable. But and so it's actually, you see it kind of unfold in the chapter where you're playing as Connor in the police station. You see Todd, the abusive father, leaving, having made a report that he was assaulted, quote unquote, by the android. And so now the android is in your files, and they get a report that an android, whatever you did in that chapter, somebody reports that this android is wandering around with this kid. And so you go to investigate, and it's an interesting thing where you cross over, because at first you're playing as Kara.
It's a dichotomy. Yeah,
well, first you're playing as Kara in the house, and I was in a house with this crazy android who only refers to himself in the first person and tries to make the kid eat a roasted like rodent or something. It's very weird, but he's not a well robot.
Yeah.
But you're doing that, and then it switches to Connor getting there with the cops. So you know where she is, and kind of it's up to you whether Connor figures it out or not, and then goes in and sort of, you have to kind of. It's weird. You're investigating a situation that you know more about than the character, so you have to decide whether that character figures it out or doesn't figure it out, and that can determine what happens.
That's kind of cool, though.
There's some cool ideas in terms of like the gameplay, if you want to call it. Because most of it's just pressing QTE buttons, but like, and then
isn't that really the problem? Because the story sounds rote and it sounds very quote unquote video game, but it does sound like it's at least a little bit better than the average video game story, but the rub there is that the story in this game needs to be really good, because that's really all there is.
Right. I mean, the android on the title screen is quoting Martin Luther King at me. Like, you think you earned that? You're out of your damn mind. Yeah. So okay, and it's just like, and there's stuff that's like that same chapter where you're investigating Kara. Like if you find her, a chase starts. And you're basically, and the game kind of switches between you playing as her trying to get across this busy freeway and playing as Connor trying to chase them. And
that's weird. You're chasing yourself, essentially.
And either of them can die if you screw up too much. And so you're like, if you screw up as Kara too much, she could die, or she could just slow down enough that when you play as Connor, you could catch her. And so there's all these different outcomes for that. I don't know how that. I only got the one because I haven't gone back and played through. Again, because you're supposed to basically play through the whole game and then go back and do the stuff you missed, and sort of live with your choices the first time through, and then see all the variants. But that whole sequence is actually really cool. That looks really good. I mean, it's in the rain, and the cars are moving like crazy, and they're getting knocked around by the cars and getting back up and hopping over stuff, and you're trying to keep up with the QTE, and that's pretty cool. If you want,
sounds like it has its moments.
Yeah, if you want to see a PlayStation Pro push some really gorgeous visuals, because again, you can do that in this game because it's doing nothing. Right. You know exactly where these characters are going to be. You don't have to worry about is the player going to suddenly turn around or
the camera around,
run over there. You can make these visuals this quality because you have very strict control over what somebody does in each of these areas. Which is that's a valid trick. That's not cheating really. It's just that's the type of game we made, so we're going to make it as gorgeous as we can, and that's how you should do it.
I mean, I've often wondered about what would happen if a developer made a game, and I think I maybe even mentioned it a couple years ago on GameFace, that was entirely inside. So that polygon budget, they never have to draw a horizon, they never have to draw anything outside. How detailed would that game be? Yeah. And maybe this is kind of the first example of that.
Well, you go
when you really kind of have that control and knowing exactly what the player's going to see, what you can actually do with the hardware we have now.
Well, you go outside a fair amount of this, and also like I've asked that question to some degree of game developers who work on that stuff, or like with God of War, I was like, if you pull the camera back out too far, don't you just break the polygon budget? And they're like, no, like that doesn't really matter. Like you're kind of already dealing with that.
It's being drawn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can use ambient occlusion to kind of
right, but like they're like that's not a big budget problem for the kind of the visual quality. So they're doing some really. My main issue with this is like, I do like some of the characters and some of the sequences are very impressive to look at. Like it's not pulling me. The story's not pulling me through at all.
And that's what you need.
And that's all there is here, basically, unless you're just here to like look at the pretty pictures, which might be enough for some, but not really for me, especially when I got other things to do. I like a couple of the characters. I like Marcus. I like Kara. Connor's interesting because they keep flashing. I think the three main characters are interesting. They keep flashing up a thing on Connor's thing that has like, like something about software error. Like so clearly he's building up to the point where he's going to go rogue or whatever. So like, and I'm sure that's probably got some really impressive like riots in the streets sequences because like I'm sure you've seen the commercials and stuff that have similar there's some action in this game eventually. But it just hasn't been anything to really make me go back to it much. I every time I start a chapter, I look at this character that I kind of like, and I'm just like, I'm sorry for whatever stupid, cliched thing is about to happen to you.
Is it fair to say, though, that it's at least, people who have played Heavy Rain or Beyond will know what to expect?
Yeah, you know what you're getting into on this, and I think one of the things that has an advantage over Beyond Two Souls, at least with, is one of the problems I had with Beyond Two Souls was that they told that story non-chronologically for reasons that escape me completely because like there's no reason to cut that, because you remember the game jumped around through her life the whole time, and like none of the stuff that followed really seemed to need the information that you were told by the later scenes coming sooner. And then I replayed it after I finished it in chronological order because there's an option to do that, and I thought it was a much better story. And I'm just like, I don't know why. I mean, it's not a great story to begin with, but like Ellen Page has a good performance that kind of pulls you through it. In fact, part of the problem I have with Detroit in that sense might be that like the three main characters do all have good performances so far for what they have to work with. But when you keep jumping me from one to the other, I feel like I'm starting over every time. And it's just sort of...
I see what you're saying.
So this game, so far at least, goes completely chronologically. It shows the date and the time and the corner of every chapter, and like you're starting at this one point and moving through this timeline, and there's a little thing every time you finish a chapter that shows like kind of the public opinion of androids. So I assume as you move forward in that, public opinion will drop and, shit will blow up. And you'll have a full-blown riot on your hands eventually, or something like they'll be fighting in the streets, protests, etc. The other interesting part is there's an option when you look at the flowchart after you finish a chapter, you can hit I think it's triangle, and it shows you the percentage of people who played that picked the same things you did. And you can pick world or friends.
Very Telltale-like.
Interesting point number one. Once I passed chapter 2, all my friend percentages were 0 because clearly no one I know is playing this game.
Right.
World percent, I was interested that I'd go through chapters where I'm just like, oh, some crazy stuff happened here, and this happened, I went over here, and then this happens. And I'd look at the world percentages, and it was like 99%. The pathway I took, the whole path I took. So clearly people are not deviating from whatever this kind of through line is.
Interesting.
And like and even like things that I thought were like, oh, it's weird, I was surprised that happened. I did that. It's like 98%.
Everybody did it.
I'm just like, okay, that happened to everybody. It's like
Final question. So people kind of know what they're getting into with this game if they've played the prior 2 games. So rank the 3 games from third to first.
Obviously I haven't finished it yet, but just in terms of kind of presentation and subject matter, I think Detroit is probably at the top.
Number 1.
Beyond Two Souls would be number 2, and Heavy Rain would be like down at the bottom of a well somewhere. Because Heavy Rain is terrible.
I agree. There's people who like that game, but there was a huge plot hole in that game that just blew it all for me.
There's a few of them.
There are a few, but there's one huge one. And in a game that's built on story, to have a gigantic plot hole that makes no sense whatsoever, it just ruined the whole thing.
Well, also like that game has a big twist, and it doesn't earn it at all.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
it's just a it's kind of a big screw you to the player too.
Yeah.
Like it's not an honest storytelling technique that they use, and I didn't like that. And I like Indigo Prophecy better than that. And Anachronon, if you go way back, you get to with this team, you get to Omicron, which is the David Bowie game, I think. And that one is pretty. I like everything that Quantic Dream has done. I like better than Heavy Rain. But Heavy Rain is kind of also something to look at in parallel with Detroit, in the sense that like Heavy Rain had the same thing where it's like, oh, the story's not very good, but wow, look at it, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Detroit's not going to be beautiful forever.
Heavy Rain seems more similar to Detroit than it does.
Yes, there's more of, at least in terms of structure and kind of the jumping between characters, because Beyond Two Souls is clearly about Ellen Page's character, period. Right. I think that the story in Beyond Two Souls is also not particularly well told, but focusing on one character and sort of having a really good actor, Ellen Page, like kind of pull you through that as that character worked a lot better than jumping me between different characters in Heavy Rain and Detroit. Also, you just were able to focus more on her and on Willem Dafoe as her father figure, and that all kind of fit together better. And I felt, there's a lot of questions about the world in Detroit. The world of Detroit is more interesting than what's happening to the characters.
Maybe that changes later on.
It could, but like, I don't have a lot of faith in it so far, because so far the setup is about as compelling as a very special Punky Brewster episode. So it just makes me think, like, man, imagine if a decent storyteller could get a hold of this kind of budget, this kind of time, and this kind of tech and tell me something worthwhile. Imagine if you gave this to, I don't know.
Don't say Kojima.
I'm not going to say Kojima. I mean, Kojima's grand ambition is to be John Carpenter.
Right.
And not even good John Carpenter. Escape from New York John Carpenter. Right. It's like, at least want to be the Thing John Carpenter, right?
Yeah. I believe this is a tech demo this whole game was based on.
Yeah, this is the
like what we saw first that ended up becoming. It's interesting that it ended up being the best of the three games, and it was based on a tech demo instead of a concept that they came up with.
Well, Heavy Rain was also based on a tech demo.
Is that true?
It was based on that tech demo of that woman like screaming at you with a gun in the kitchen.
Oh, you're right.
Remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And she was in the Heavy Rain as a prostitute that hung out with the detective.
That got a chuckle out of Sam.
Sam loves prostitutes. We know that.
So Matt,
it's the Boston in him.
Would you? So let's say you're talking to the guy on SIFTD who, when he goes to set up his game eval scores, he puts story all the way up. Would you recommend this to that person?
Not if he's encountered stories that aren't video games.
Okay. But
because look, look, my degree is in English literature. Like, I've read a lot of good stories. This is not one of them.
Yeah.
As
what
games
about
go,
on the video game scale? Because you know what I say. I always say the best video game stories are the worst stories from films.
Right. Look, if you're ready for something like a comparison would be, it would be something that would be on Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
It's just got better production values. I mean, there's not a whole lot of space between this. If you're going to make a movie out of this or something, there's not a lot of space between this and Parts the Clonus Horror, which is the cheesy 70s movie that Michael Bay's The Island stole from. There's not a lot of space between those in terms of in terms of storytelling and acting, with the exception of people like Clancy Brown and Lance Henriksen. Although Clonus Horror also has Peter Graves in it, who's pretty good. Imagine it's because it's hard to see past it, I guess, because it looks so good graphically and it's so slick. But this is like a C-list, like kind of texploitation 70s film to me in a lot of ways. I guess it might have like cheese factor like appeal in the same way that like Logan's Run does. It's like, I
know what you're saying.
But or like Zardos. Clear, and it's done in that same kind of extreme earnestness that movies like Zardos are done, where it's like, clearly whoever made Zardos really believed in Zardos. There's no doubt of that. But you watch it and you're like, what do you do? Like, what? Okay. And it's like, it might be fun, but like, the game thinks it's profound.
Right. David Cage thinks
it's profound.
Yeah.
I watch this and I'm just like, this is my first equality story, basically. I mean, it's like, it reads in. It's like it's written by, in places it feels like it's written by like a young teen as like a story, and they thought they were saying something profound about like equality or racism or whatever, or you know, self-awareness or kind of tech, you know, the futurism kind of angle of it. But in truth, it's just like, well, that's pretty good for your first try, but hopefully you grow past that, you know.
Yeah.
It's that thing where like you read like a young kid's, or when you're a young kid and you write something and it's basically just a straight rip-off of all your favorite things.
Right, all into one. Yeah.
And you know, you start by doing that, and eventually you kind of develop your own voice.
Yeah.
Like it feels like David Cage just never develops his own voice. It
Got
feels like everything he makes, like Heavy Rain was just a by-the-numbers murder mystery that had a weird twist in it. Beyond Two Souls was sort of the standard sort of like you're an outcast experiment supernatural thing. Like Beyond Two Souls, I think, had more original ideas in its head than either of the other two. And Detroit just feels like, okay, well, you Red Eye Robot, and you sort of extrapolated from there, and then you saw Blade Runner twice. It's like.
Would you recommend anybody buy this, Matt?
Probably not for $60.
Where do you think's a fair price, maybe?
Well, there was a thing on like PlayStation Rewards or something. Or I don't remember what it was. Like Wario 64 was tweeting about it, where if you watched like a video, you got a 20% off coupon. That's pretty. I mean, I think that's over, but that was ended yesterday.
So $40.
But $40 was I paid $40 for it, and I felt like I don't feel like I got totally hosed on it. You know, I'll probably go back to it and like finish it eventually. So I'd say 40 and under. It's a pretty good deal. I know we really don't recommend things at full price very often on this show.
Yeah.
And it goes, if you played Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls and you thought they were fine storytelling wise, this game is probably even
You're
a little.
Gonna love it.
Yeah, I mean, this game is probably a little better than either of those games in terms of storytelling. I mean, the one thing I can say, I guess, is that he is getting better.
Each game has gotten better.
I don't think he's good at it in writing these meaningful quote unquote stories.
But he's improving.
But he's improving to some degree, and I don't know what's going on. The details of that are, but like, yeah, if you didn't think anything was wrong with the writing in Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls, like you should probably already own this game.
They
like,
probably do.
Probably do, yeah.
Maybe by PlayStation 7,
yeah,
he'll actually get to a place where he's writing a decent
80-year-old David Cage, just like it's like I know, I
finally figured it out.
And like it'll be a game about his life.
Right.
It'll be like an autobiographical.
Which he could not screw up.
Right. And you're like, this is the most melodramatic. It's like, that's what really happened. It's like,
well, remember,
explains so many things.
Well, remember, they just had like the sexual harassment lawsuit and all that stuff that's going on. And actually, maybe the next game will be about just Quantic Dream.
Oh, that would be so in character. Be like, well, this has happened to me, and now I have to explore it as an artist, kind of thing. And you're just like, yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. That's Detroit Become Human. We're going to move on. We're going to talk next about a pokey explosion that happened this week.
Explosion.
Does E3 mean nothing to people anymore? Seriously. You announced 3 Pokemon games in one day with really no pre-announcement whatsoever.
Well, it's like it's like, oh, they're trying to get ahead of the news cycle. If everybody tries to get ahead of the news cycle enough, 1 year E3 is going to be in May again.
Or they'll just cancel it.
Yeah.
It'll be like the last week of May, and they'll be like, you know what, we're just going to cancel.
That's kind of in line.
Everything's happened already.
It's kind of in line with what's already happening to E3, though. It's like everything's getting so dispersed, and everything's like, 2 companies aren't even on the floor anymore, and everything, the press conferences keep moving up and up and up and up. Press conferences used to all be on Tuesday, except for like one on Monday night, and now like they start Sunday morning.
Yep.
You can't, and people are, people used to fly in Sunday morning. Now they fly in Friday night.
Yeah.
And it's getting, it's moving more and more back, and the show floor is getting less and less important.
And meanwhile, there's all these other events popping up around
Right.
the show. I mean, Microsoft has their
It's
separate
just
thing.
an increasing, and I think, and a lot of the really good information, a lot of the real journalistic work is pre-done via Judges Week.
Yeah.
The actual physical 3 days on the floor is becoming less and less important to kind of the industry and the media, and I think that's why you're seeing the ESA try to shift it to be a public event in that regard, because those are the people that are going to benefit the most from it if they can ever figure out how to make it work.
Now on the flip side, we're going to do a lot more from the show floor this year because of the shift in focus to the fans getting in. Like, we're going to shift our coverage a little bit to talk to those people and figure out what it's like. We're going to ask people If they felt like it was worth it, talk to people who traveled from the East Coast and
8 hours in line in
paid
the
for the
Nintendo
flight,
booth, real
and paid
time.
for the hotel, and we're going to go to them on Thursday. We're going to say, hey, has it all been worth it? I think that's a pretty valuable service to a lot of people who are thinking about maybe making their sojourn to E3. But anyway.
There hasn't been a lot of like investigation into what the normal people think about
Nope.
going to E3.
I haven't seen anything like it. So we're going to do some of that stuff. But let's get back to Pokemon. So Japan just don't give a crap. No. Zero F's given pretty much about
I mean,
E3.
Nintendo has always kind of seen themselves as somewhat separate from these kinds of shows.
Well,
anyway.
Pokemon Company in particular is kind of does its own thing. Even outside of what Nintendo normally does, it is its own private company, and it can make its own decisions. And I don't know why you would think you'd need to get out from under the avalanche of information from E3, because Pokemon is frickin' Pokemon. But
maybe they don't trust Nintendo to showcase it properly.
That's possible as well. Although
Limited amount of time in that direct.
Yeah. So I'm guessing they'll have demos of it at. Anyway, let's talk about the game. So the big one, Pokemon for Switch, was what everyone was really waiting for. A little bit of a letdown because it turns out it's a remake, and this is a remake absolutely in the purest sense of the term remake, of Pokemon Yellow. And it has
a loose remake.
A loose remake, but it has the same plot. It has the original 151, which I'm all about. Like, I really only care about the original.
+1.
Right. I only really care about the original Gen 1 Pokemon. Like, all these other Pokemon, I could really care less
I like
about.
Gen 2, but like I kind of fell out of it after Gold and Silver,
Yeah.
and so everything after that is sort of like a blur.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are disappointed about it. It's called Let's Go, Pokemon Let's Go, and then there's a Pikachu and an Eevee edition. A lot of people I saw were like disappointed, saying this isn't what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted for Switch. A Generation 1 Pokemon game that's completely redone and made just for Switch.
Well, except it's not that really. It's a Pokemon Go expansion.
Well, it integrates in with Pokemon Go, and it also has like a new peripheral that you can use.
Yeah, which you're not going to be able to find in stores ever.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, the Pokemon Go things were gone like immediately.
That Pokeball, people are going to buy the Pokeball thing even if they don't buy the game.
No, you're right.
I mean,
it's just like a cool little toy.
Yeah. And then it talks, I guess.
Yeah. Cooperative play, you can play together with somebody else.
Locally.
Yeah.
The online, there was a lot of controversy over whether it was online play or not.
Yeah.
GameSpot said there was, and they said there wasn't.
Okay.
There were, like, sites were, and then Nintendo Japan said there was, and somebody said, well, so I don't know if anybody knows.
There has to be online battles. I mean, how hard is that?
Don't bet on it.
It's so little data to send across the internet.
But like the problem, like this is not at all what I wanted from a Switch Pokemon game. I wanted an actual Pokemon game.
Well, that's coming next year.
Right. So I'm just going to wait for that. I have zero interest in these games.
Really?
At all.
So wait, you don't think that the one coming this year is a real Pokemon game? Well, I mean, it's still got like a story.
Well, I mean, it's a real Pokemon game in the sense it's called Pokemon, and you walk around and fight monsters with each other. But it's just.
What is it about it that makes you consider it not a real game?
There's no wild Pokemon. There's no evolution stuff. It's a very, very stripped down version of Pokemon. It's like kind of an introduction, a casual introduction to Pokemon, and I don't feel like I need that. I've played all the Pokemon games, most of the Pokemon games. I was waiting for a full-fledged new generation, whatever they're on now, 8.
It will be 8, yeah.
Pokemon game.
Next year's game.
So next year's game is what I'm waiting for. I don't care about this thing.
Really? I absolutely do. I'm excited for this game. I don't get where you're saying it's pared down, though. I didn't get that from the information that I read.
It's not. I mean, it's not a direct remake. It's not like a JRPG. It's like, your motion control throwing balls. It's much more Pokemon Go to it.
I mean, I know it has Pokemon Go integration. You can transfer Pokemon back and forth between the two games.
But the way you're throwing the balls and timing it with the squeezing circle thing.
But isn't that just when you're ready to catch them after you've beaten them down?
Yeah, that's how Pokemon Go works, though. That's not how normal Pokemon games
No,
work.
I understand. I've played every Pokemon game ever. But to me, that's just kind of semantics. Like whether I press a button and the ball goes out and it shakes around, or maybe it's not even mandatory that you use the motion controls to throw the ball.
I don't think it is, but like it's clearly kind of it strikes me as like a Kinect version of Pokemon, and I don't care.
I do. I'm excited for it.
It's just not. I mean, it does a lot of cool gimmickry things. Like if you're into Pokemon and maybe younger than I am, like that's pretty cool. Like the thing wearing a thing on your belt or whatever, if you can find the damn thing. But like do I want to spend my time playing like baby's first Pokemon game? Not really. That's not really what I'm here for.
That's weird. I did not get the vibe from.
It looks real simple and real rudimentary, and I don't just mean in the sense that it's a remake of the Kanto game. I mean because I like the Gen 1 stuff. Gen 1 stuff is cool, but like that's not what a Pokemon game on the Switch was to me. Like that, a Pokemon. I mean, it's. There's no wild Pokemon. There's no random battles. You only see. It's not the same game. It's like. It's as casual as you can make a Pokemon game, I guess, would be
other
the way it's
than
been
Go.
described.
I mean, to me, Go is as casual as.
Well, Go is different in that it doesn't involve battling. So this is basically the Pokemon Battle Coliseum expansion for Pokemon Go to me.
It's also funny that they're kind of cannibalizing Pokemon Go because you no longer really have to walk around to get Pokemon. You can just play it on the Switch version, just transfer them into Pokemon Go now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not going to help you with the Gen 2 stuff, I guess, because, which might be part of the shift is like, that lets them shift the Gen 1 stuff out of Pokemon Go and focus more on Gen 2 and maybe introduce some Gen 3. And it gives you kind of a place to put those where you don't have to put them in the real world anymore, and people who want them, you just go get them on the Switch. That's a pretty smart way to integrate that. I just don't think it looks way more Pokemon Go than Pokemon mainline game to me. And
it seemed to be right in the middle to me.
I think it leans much further towards the Pokemon Go side to me. Pokemon to me is actually the thing about Pokemon to me is like it's a deceptively complex game.
It is.
Like
absolutely.
there's a lot more to it than you'd think by just looking. It looks like a kid's game of like, oh, the cute little monster. Like, no, there's some hardline JRPG grinding and battling.
That's why I believe it's remained so popular for so long. Because there's so much depth underneath the surface.
Because you can go back to it, like you can play it when you're a kid and go back to it when you bring your Game Boy to a dorm in college, and like all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's fun to play with this thing that makes me feel like I'm back home because I'm homesick and I'm in college.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, oh, it's like how I felt watching Star Wars again in college after not watching it for like 10 years. I'm like, this is really good. Like this is actually pretty good. There's more to this than I thought. Yeah. I think that's the experience a lot of Pokemon fans had, who were like 8 when it came out in '98 in America, and like they grew up and they played it again with their friends in dorms and were like, oh, this is actually pretty good. They rediscovered it. And you don't rediscover something that's simple and dumb. You rediscover something that's like, oh, there's more to this. I can dig into it and I understand it better because I'm older and I think better now.
Yeah.
And it's not just about like, oh, I want to use this Pokemon because I love this Pokemon.
Yeah.
I want to use this Pokemon because it's the best.
Right. Or it has an advantage over the creatures I'm going to be fighting.
And I don't get that sense from this game, from the Let's Go game so far. I mean, the fact that Go is in the title indicates to me that they're leaning much further towards that audience. They're trying to lure the Pokemon Go billions into the mainline Pokemon game, and this is their gateway drug.
No, I can see that. I mean, that's why I said I think it was in the middle, because I think you're right. I think they're trying to increase the audience of Pokemon by getting the really casual folks who play Go. As it's like a shoehorn to get them into next year's game, which is the full-blown Pokemon RPG.
It's like the Labo. It's not for me.
Yeah.
The only reason I might play it is because of Gen 1 nostalgia. Like, I don't think it looks like a particularly
just to see
game.
those Pokemon rendered in 3D.
Yeah,
that was a big draw for me of Pokemon Stadium back in the day.
Right.
Seeing like polygonal versions of those Pokemon.
Yeah, now you can just see that in the 3DS versions, though.
No,
but
roughly.
Well, they're polygonal.
They're polygonal, but the texturing on 3DS is not.
Yeah, the texturing in this doesn't look too great either.
I didn't think it looked bad.
Well, it looks very simple.
And I'm sorry we cannot show you this while we're talking about it, because sometimes we'll show stuff that we know is going to get a flag on YouTube because we can just go in and edit it out after when we put up the public version on YouTube. But unfortunately, with the Pokemon Company, if you run something, they'll just flat out strike your video down.
Yeah, they don't want you showing their videos.
They don't want you promoting their product. Like, how great would it have been there if I said, I think it looks pretty good, and we could have shown people that it actually looks pretty good. So anyway, we're not showing you this, but the next game we're going to talk about, I've been playing.
I just think it's also I think people have noted. I think Pactor has too that like Nintendo doesn't benefit much from Pokemon Go.
No.
So this is so tied in with Pokemon Go, and Game Freak and Pokemon Company is so plastered over this thing. It makes me wonder if one of the reasons they showed it this early is because Nintendo doesn't have a lot of interest in highlighting it.
Possible. And there was a third Pokemon game announced, Pokemon Quest.
It's already up.
Yeah, so they announced it, and they're like, and by the way, you can go download it right now. And I did. And I've actually been playing this game a good bit over the last few days. I've probably sunk 6 or 7 hours into it, something like that. I'm pleasantly surprised by it, I guess is the best way I could put it. You talk about casual Pokemon. This is a casual Pokemon game. It's for Switch. It's also for mobile. I don't know if the mobile version is out yet. This is a Switch version that we're checking out right now.
I think it is, but I haven't paid attention really.
Did you download and play this at all?
No.
No? So we're looking at gameplay right now. How it works is your Pokemon, you have a 3 Pokemon party, and they move on their own. You do not control where they go. They go all on their own. And actually, Sam, could you take down the graphic real quick on the bottom so people can see what's below? So each Pokemon has 2 moves that they can equip at once, and they're all on a cooldown. And basically, to be perfectly honest with you, when I play this, I hardly ever even look at the battle. I'm just watching those meters at the bottom to figure out when each one has refilled so that I can use it again. And so basically how it works is you have a map screen that looks a lot like an old school like 2D Mario map screen. And you can choose which. And there's at least
a dapper mustache Onyx is sporting there in the picture.
Yeah, and there's you can see the graphics are kind of like do you remember that game Animal Leader? I think it was for GameCube.
I remember Cubivore.
Cubivore. Well, it was called Animal Leader in Japan and then Cubivore in the States. The art style is very similar to Cubivore, but obviously they're all Pokemon. And sometimes it's hard to even tell what the hell the Pokemon are supposed to be. Even if you know them very well, sometimes it's hard to tell. So you have a map screen, you can kind of choose, and there are, I wouldn't call them branching paths, but you rarely ever have just one stage to take on. Oftentimes there's 2, 3, or 4 stages open at a time. And you even have to kind of jump back and forth between them because your team will have a rating, like a power rating. And before you jump into a level, it will tell you what the power rating of the Pokemon you're going to be facing is. And then it'll adjust your power rating depending on if your Pokemon match up well against those Pokemon. And sometimes like you'll start plowing through one of the levels, you'll get to like the 3rd stage or whatever, and there'll be a huge jump. And then you go back out to the map screen and you'll realize that one of the other levels is actually lower. And so you end up like jumping back and forth between like all the stages. Like I said, the Pokemon control themselves. You don't control where they go on the map. They just automatically seek out the enemies. And you end up generally fighting like 3 or 4 waves of enemies. And then after you get to like the end stage, you take on a boss. So the structure of the game is very simple. It's very, very easy. When you're outside of actual combat, you go back, you have like a base, essentially. And when you first start, it's just empty terrain, and whatever Pokemon that you have are kind of hanging out there. But as you play the game and you beat bosses, you add new statues to your base. And then eventually, when you first get to your base, you have a cooking pot. You can upgrade the cooking pot. And the cooking is, so after you defeat each monster, you get resources after every battle. And after you beat a boss, you get like a ton of resources. And then you use those resources to cook. And what the cooking does is it brings new Pokemon to your base so that they can join your team. And you have different recipes, and different recipes attract different kind of Pokemon. And so you can be a little strategic about how you're kind of building your roster of Pokemon that way.
A little bit Viva Pinata.
A little bit, yeah, it is kind of that way. Except you're not like laying, well, no, you're right. Viva Pinata is very much like that. Yeah, it was like the scent or whatever that would bring him. It's kind of the same thing with this. And like I said, you have a 3 Pokemon team at all times. And then each Pokemon has like a grid. And there are 3 different items that you can collect throughout the game. There's an item that improves your attack. There's an item that improves your defense. And then there are items that will boost the power of your 2 attacks. And you go to this grid screen, and like it's kind of like tic-tac-toe. Like each Pokemon has a different grid screen. If you can stack those up so that they're in a straight line, it will give you kind of a multiplier that'll make that ability stronger or make your team stronger. And then there's mission objectives that you accomplish, and this is where the free-to-play thing kicks in. So you have these things called like tickets that you get. You get them sometimes when you defeat enemies. You get it by completing missions. Like there's tons of like challenges and missions, like meet 10 grass-style Pokemon, defeat 50 rock-style Pokemon. And as you complete those, you get different rewards. And sometimes it's these tickets. Well, the tickets are kind of the gatekeeper to the entire game. Without tickets, you can't do much of anything. You need them to cook. You need them to do almost anything in the game. So that's one way that they gate the game for free-to-play. The other way that they gate the game is with a battery. So you have a battery in the game, and you can earn extra battery power by completing missions and things like that. But for the most part, basically that's how they get you to pay, because you have to spend those tickets to buy battery life or to buy extra things for your base. You can buy like decorations for your base or whatever. And that's how they gate it. So, but I'll tell you, I managed to play this game for probably 4 hours before I got to a point where my battery was dead and I had no way to get more battery juice. And then that's when the prompt comes up and says, hey, do you want to spend real money to buy these tickets so you can increase your battery life and keep playing? And if not, you just turn it off, and then it's on a timer. Like every 30 minutes, your battery will charge up 1 notch, and the battery's like 5 notches or something like that. So last night, finally, after playing for 5 or 6 hours, I got to that impasse, turned it off, woke up today, and the battery was all full when I was able to go again. So I would say for a free-to-play game, to be able to play it that long without having to spend any real money and only really just having to take a break from the game, I think it's pretty fair. And here you're looking at one of the statues. So when you beat a boss, you get these statues. And then chances are, I think, well, it'll walk you right to what I was talking about. And I can now show you guys some of the stuff I was talking about with the base and setting up your Pokemon. So that was the map screen, and that's where you choose what level you're going into. And here's the challenges I was talking about. So you can see there, I completed that challenge. It charged my battery up. And now my battery at the top right there is an 8 out of 5. Here, this one just gives me resources to cook with, and then some of them will actually give you the Pokemon tickets that you need as well. And then, let's see, here we go back to the base camp. Now you're going to be able to see the camp that I was talking about. So the statues that you get for beating the bosses, those are the gray statues. That thing that's like smoking is the cooking pot. And then you can see all the Pokemon that I've already collected just hanging out around the base. And then I just got that statue, so now I'm going to place the statue down on my base, and you can kind of choose where you want to put it. Those things give you buffs, your team buffs, but I have not really quite figured out exactly what all of them do yet. And then you can see the cooking pot. Every time you cook something, it's a set amount of days. So you can see it says 2 out of 4. That pot's been cooking for 2 days out of the 4 it requires to complete it. Once it hits that 4-day mark, I'll be able to open the pot, and when you open the pot, the smell emanates out, and then a new Pokemon will come into your base camp, and you can add them to your team. And that's pretty much it. The RPG elements are pretty light. The game itself so far has been pretty easy. I think I've died like once on a boss fight the whole time I've been playing it. But it is a free game, and I played that game for 6 hours, and now when I go home, my timers will all be refilled, and I can go play it again. I've actually had some pretty good fun with it. It's certainly a different take. Here you can see each Pokemon screen. So on the left there's that grid. Oh, too bad it went away. Here it is. So each Pokemon's grid on the left is different. So you have the hearts, and then you have the red ones. The hearts obviously build your hit points. The reds build your attack power. And then that top row across the top there, those are your actual attacks. And then the blank spaces to the right of each one of those are where you can add the modifiers for each of your main attacks. Evolution's slow. I've only evolved 1 Pokemon. When I did evolve it, I did not get any new attacks. And sometimes you get like a Pokemon that only has like buffs. It's like in this game, things like that aren't as effective as they are in a real Pokemon game. But look, it's free. And I've had a lot of fun playing this game. It's very simple. It's very easy. I could definitely see myself playing it on my smartphone once it comes out for mobile. I was pleasantly surprised by this for a free-to-play game. I don't know that Nintendo has the special sauce set up right so that people are going to actually spend money on it, because like I said, I played it for 6 hours, never spent a dime.
That is an ongoing problem they seem to have.
It is, yeah. Nintendo has not figured out yet how to maximize revenue from mobile games.
Well, because
it's good for consumers.
They're still interested in people having fun playing the game.
No, you're right.
And as long as you're thinking about that, you are not maximizing your mobile game revenue.
But that's not how mobile gaming works. Yeah,
right.
It's like, that's not how it works. You have to figure out how you can put the player in a position where they're enjoying the game enough that they're willing to pay to keep playing it.
Like Nintendo's not willing to wage psychological warfare against their own customers, so they're not going to maximize their mobile earnings.
Nope.
That's just how it works.
That's a good way to put it in a sentence. But the good news is, that's good news for consumers.
I mean, yeah, that's probably an interesting experiment in how it should be. And the argument there, in terms of like what Nintendo's kind of saying about the mobile earnings is like we aren't earning as much as we could or should.
We're not being
by
big
the
enough
metric
dicks.
by the metric of what people generally earn from this kind of game. But
with
Nintendo,
that number of players too.
Right? But Nintendo might just hit a point where they're like, well, this is as far as we're willing to go down that psych warfare rabbit hole, and we're just going to have to accept that this is how much money our mobile games make. Because otherwise we're being jerks to our customers.
I would be surprised though if Nintendo doesn't eventually change its policies. So this is a brand new mobile game, and it still hasn't seemed to figure it out. So until it changes its mind and starts being jerks, I'm going to enjoy it. I mean, they could probably sell this game for $10. I've played it for 6 hours. It doesn't even appear that I'm even close to halfway done with the game. I still have less than half of the statues for my base. I hardly have any Pokemon yet, and looking at the map screen, it looks like I've barely cleared half of it. So, looks like it's a pretty big game. Should be very easy for them to add content to.
Yeah.
Because you can tell these stages are just randomly generated or whatever. It's not like they have a unique style to them or anything like that. And they can just toss Pokemon in there and off you go. So, I'm pleasantly impressed by this game. I don't know if I'm going to keep playing it. Maybe it's something I pull out and play like while I've got downtime at E3 or something like that. But with other games that we're going to talk about here in a minute that I need to play that are more important, I don't know if I'll go back to it. But the time I spent with it, I actually enjoyed it, and it was better than I thought, I guess is the best way that I could put it, and deeper than I thought as well. So there you go, Pokemon Quest, and that's 3 brand new Pokemon games announced in one day. I don't think that's ever happened before.
No, certainly not. I mean, I can't think of anything. Usually it's 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Color and
2
color.
versions. So actually, technically, there was 4 announced because you have the Pikachu
Yeah.
and the Eevee versions of Pokemon Let's Go. So, big
Eevee's
deal.
an interesting choice.
I'm not a fan of Eevee, but he's huge for
But
whatever reason. People love him.
Pokemon Go love Eevee. Players love Eevee because it's got so many evolution options. Which is the irony of making Eevee sort of the focus of a Gen 1 reimagining because you lose a lot of those options
absolutely.
by going back to Gen 1. But hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah. You think we'll see this stuff at E3, or do you think this was just Nintendo saying, hey, let's get out ahead of the show?
I think you'll probably see the Let's Go games mentioned, at least. It's too big to ignore. It's one of the only things they got this fall. So.
Yeah. We'll see. So there you go.
Unless there's stuff we don't know about. But clearly, I mean, any kind of major Pokemon release with a physical hardware component is going to be something I think Nintendo should be pushing.
Yeah. So there it is, this week's Poke-splosion. Quite a big one, the biggest one ever.
Unless you're actually waiting for a real Pokemon game.
Yeah.
In which case, see you next year.
Well, they did announce it, technically.
Yeah. I mean, it's there
At least we know now what a lot of people want is on the way.
It's better than Hey You Pikachu.
Yeah, I think it was probably a little ridiculous to expect a full-fledged Pokemon game for Switch this year.
I don't think
in the first place. Those games are big, man.
Yeah, they're big, but you got to plan ahead, man, people. I mean, it's not like they haven't made them before, and you know what you're going to need this fall.
Well, I mean, they haven't made like a 3D one, like a legit.
Of course they have. Like the last 4 have been 3D.
Gale of Darkness or whatever.
No, all the Pokemon games have been 3D for
I just don't mean if they're
Omega Ruby. Well, of course they are. What was it? The Sun and Moon. They're completely 3D games.
Yeah, I mean they're made out of polygons, but you can't put those games on a console and expect people to be happy with it.
I mean that's more or less what the Let's Go games are.
No.
Yeah, there's better looking versions of what Sun and Moon are.
Right. Well, they've completely redone the graphics and everything.
Well, it's not about the graphics, but the perspective and the gameplay. It's the same thing. It's like you still run around a 3D world. It's not any different.
I think people will care. You cannot just put like Pokemon Sun and Moon on Switch and not expect people to be like, wait a minute, like this isn't what I expect from a Switch game.
Gameplay-wise, yeah.
Well, yeah, the gameplay is always going to stay the same as Pokemon, but I'm talking about what it looks like. I mean, that's the point of putting it on a console after it's been on handheld all this time.
That's just a remaster kind of thing. Like you could make Sun and Moon look as good as a Switch game without any problem if you just remastered the assets, but like...
you can't. You absolutely can't. If you look at how that game is made, it has all these weird, like, parallax, like... No. You have to completely rebuild the game, visually. Without
you just make that the visual style. It would be easy.
That would not fly. It'll fly with the crazy hardcore Nintendo fans.
If this thing's gonna,
they can do anything.
If Let's Go's gonna fly, that would have flown.
Let's Go looks good. The graphics in that game look good.
For a certain measure of good, Like
It's a Switch game.
You simplify it. I mean, even for a Switch game, those games look real simple. Like, and there's an appeal to that. I get that because the Pokemon have clean lines and it's just a simple design to it. But like that and anything that looks outside of resolution, that's not anything that looks like it couldn't have been on a 3DS.
No way. I completely disagree with that.
It doesn't impress me in any way, shape, or form.
The number of polygons in each character in that game is more than the total number of polygons being displayed at a time on the 3DS. Guaranteed. That's just polygon count. You start talking about textures and lighting, it's not even close.
Well, they should have made something.
Watch the trailer again, Kyle.
I watched the trailer. It doesn't look good to me. It looks like shit to me. Like
Wow.
I think it's a waste of a space in the schedule for me. But like I get that it's trying to cash in on the Pokemon Go people that might be possible converts. But to me, wow, what a waste of time.
They did get a Pokemon game out on a console in the console's first year and 6 months.
If you want to call that a Pokemon game, which I don't. Gen 8 is the Pokemon game.
Well, you got to realize there was never a Pokemon game for Wii U.
Oh yeah,
there's
never been a console Pokemon
right.
game.
Well, there was on
No.
the GameCube, that Gale of Darkness game.
That's not a real Pokemon game. It's not a mainline game. That's not a Gen game. That's not a Gold Silver or a Diamond Pearl. That is a spin-off. Like people wanted an actual Pokemon game, like the next mainline Gen 8 Pokemon game. They wanted that on the Switch.
But isn't that just a moniker?
No.
Why is it not just a moniker?
Why is Han Solo
what
movie?
makes
Why is
it-
the Han Solo movie doesn't have an episode title? Because it's not the episode series. It's a side story. That's what this is.
But the Pokemon games don't have concurrent stories across them.
But that's not what the Gen thing is. Like when you upgrade it to a new like a Sun Moon kind of thing, and then there's a bunch of spin-off
That's just
crap.
semantics, though.
That's how the Pokemon games are categorized.
The Gale of Darkness game for GameCube was like a 70-hour Pokemon RPG.
But it's not the mainline series.
Just because Nintendo says that, though. It
Because-
played just like Pokemon.
And the whole fandom says it's not a mainline Pokemon game.
Whatever. I just think it's semantics. To me, it
Well-
matters how it plays is what makes the difference, whether it's one
And Gale of
game
Darkness
or
has
not.
stripped a bunch of the interesting systems out of the game to make it a simpler game. And it's
No, that game wasn't simpler at all, though.
simpler than the current Pokemon games at the time. Yeah, it was.
The GameCube era?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, people have been waiting.
I mean,
for...
my big issue with that game was that it was finally a console Pokemon game, but it looked like ass.
Yeah,
They kind of
well,
half-assed it, like kind of what you're suggesting, like they would do if they were to up-res Sun and Moon for Switch. That is kind of what they did with Gale of Darkness.
Well,
is that even really the title? Is it Gale of Darkness?
Maybe.
It's
sounds-
something
it
like
sounds
that.
right to me.
It's something like that.
I never played.
I enjoyed it. I played it all the way.
I
to the
never
end.
played much of that because it just wasn't. It wasn't part of the series. It's not. You're not going around battling other people. There's no online support for it. It's not the same thing. It's not. You're not filling out your Pokedex with your team and your PCs. And I mean,
No, it had all that.
There's no forward momentum. The way you know it's a mainline Pokemon game, can you forward momentum your Pokemon collection to the next one? And Gale of Darkness didn't do that. The mainline games are like Gold, Silver. And
I know what people
Pokemon.
consider. I just think it's bullshit.
Well, that's what. Well,
I know what you're saying. I know that hardcore Pokemon fans are going to agree with you, but I just think it's bullshit. I just don't think it makes any sense. It's a Pokemon game or it's not. And I would agree that Let's Go is way farther away from a traditional Pokemon game than Gale of Darkness.
Well, then I'm going to make you play the Wii version of Call of Duty, and you're going to be happy.
I played
with
it.
that. You're going to be happy with that because it's a real Call of Duty game, just as good as any other one.
That was what, Black Ops 2?
Maybe, yeah.
I think they
I wanted
just
to say there
chopped-
was
I
two.
think the campaign, it was just a campaign with no multiplayer, right? Isn't that what it
I
was?
thought there was some kind of local multiplayer thing. Maybe that was a World. It was a World War II one as well.
remember.
There was like a World at War got a weird version. I thought of a Wii.
I do
stripped-down
remember it
Wii
was
version.
completely gimped.
But
And
this
it
is that's what something like Gale of Darkness is like the Wii version of the mainline Call of Duty game. Like that, and people want. It's kind of like how people were saying, like, oh, they want Black Ops 4 on the Switch. Well, whatever you're going to get Call of Duty-wise on the Switch ain't going to be what Black Ops 4 is on the other platforms.
Well, actually, it might, because there's no campaign in Black Ops 4.
You can't run that on that. I would be shocked if that's... Also, Activision doesn't care. Like, Activision doesn't think there's any money to be made there. They want a games as a service, and there's no online thing. Maybe next year, when the online infrastructure is already in place, but I feel like Activision is big enough and full of money enough and doesn't care enough that they're just like, call us when you're ready, kind of. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Maybe they get Black Ops 4 on the Switch next year, once the online infrastructure is in place and it's kind of proven after a while. But like, no,
No, you're only going to get Blackout probably on Switch.
Yeah, maybe.
The Battle Royale, it's my guess.
But I think there's a lot
If
of
you get
there's a lot of
anything at
people
all.
disappointed that this is not, the mainline real Pokemon game is coming next year, and so everybody can just sort of wait for that, and that's cool. But like, this is a stopgap spin-off. This is Pokemon Snap. This is Hey You Pikachu. This is not a Pokemon game.
All right, let's move on. We're going to start our E3 previews, finally. After talking about them for a couple of weeks, we're going to do our first one. We're going to talk about Sony first. Typically...
Which is apparently out of its surprises already.
Yeah, I mean, Sony usually would be the one we'd say for last, because it usually was the one that would have the games we really wanted to talk about the most. It would have the most games to talk about.
But they've already kind of come out and said, hey, everybody just settle down. Like, we're talking about 4 main games, and shut up.
Yeah,
like, okay, sure.
It's kind of shocking, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't
Do they need like a down year or something? Like,
I don't get it. Like, I didn't even really think about it too much until I started putting together the rundown for this show. And we have Nintendo and Microsoft in this episode as well. And I started looking at Sony versus the other guys, and I was like, that's weird. Mm-hmm. I also have heard through the grapevine that, what's the guy's name who always presents? Sean for Sony. He's been on stage the last like 3 E3. Sean something or other.
Once you go past Jack Tretton, I forget.
Yeah. Well, obviously Jack's not even with them anymore. No. But you know who I'm talking about. Sean Layton, I think is his name. Yeah. He apparently he was demoted.
What?
Yeah.
Why? They're doing pretty good, last I checked.
I'm not going to say. But apparently he was demoted. And that is weighing into how Sony is handling E3 this year.
Interesting.
Because he had become like their front man, and something happened with Japan and blah, blah, blah. And now
Mr. Caffeine's not busy.
Yeah. But apparently he is either going to have a bit part in the press conference this year or not be a part of it at all. After being the guy. I mean, there was it last year or the year before where it was literally just him.
Yeah.
Standing on a stage.
Last year was basically
just tossing to games.
He was the Jay Allard.
Yeah. Well, there's something going on in Sony land with him. And he's not going to be a big part of E3 like he has been in years past.
That's too bad. I thought they found a pretty good equilibrium with him.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I mean, he just went out and said, "Hey, look at this game now."
Hey,
like,
games, and more games.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Like, I think Sony had nailed the E3 press conference the last couple of years.
Found their sea legs the way that like Nintendo did with Reggie in 2004.
Yeah. Wow, he pulled that one out.
Yeah, well,
you're absolutely right.
I was at that thing. That was after the few Nintendo conferences before that, and Reggie just came out. It's like, we're about taking names and
kicking
making
ass
games
and taking
ass.
names.
And he's like, "How about this? Look at this. What's up? Let's go." It was just like,
No,
damn.
right.
Like, I was
Who is this
blown
guy?
away. Like, who is this dude?
I mean, that turned him into a star overnight.
Oh yeah.
The kicking ass and taking names thing, like that.
Yep.
The meme before there were memes.
Yeah, the fact that somebody said ass in a Nintendo conference.
No, you're right.
That changed.
Which
the whole
hasn't
box
happened
up.
since, I might add.
But like you kind of waiting for another, for Sony to sort of figure out. It's like, it doesn't always have to be a stuffed shirt corporate event.
Right.
You can have someone just come out and say, "Hey, games are awesome. Let's check this shit out."
Yeah.
And I think Sean did that for the most part.
Absolutely. So this year at E3, there's really there's probably 5 big games.
Yeah, they said there's like 4 they're having big focus things on, and then there'll probably be scattered other stuff through the rest of the presentation.
The first one we're going to talk about is Death Stranding.
We might actually find out what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you do enough sleuthing, you can kind of figure out at this point what it is, how it plays, maybe not so much.
That's what I'm talking about.
See some actual gameplay, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming we're going to see the game being played at E3 this year.
Probably. I mean, yeah.
I mean, if it's one of their 4 games, there's no way
Look, the black
one of
oil,
4 games is only going to show a trailer again.
The black oil is clearly nanomachines. Like,
Yeah.
We know that. We just have to figure out what are we doing in the game. But it's funny how no one asked the No Man's Sky question of Kojima.
No, you're right.
But what do you do?
They would never ask that.
No, let's freak out about how he's
how
underwater.
It looks and,
Look, Mads Mikkelsen has a baby. Like, what the? Who cares? Like, what is the game?
Look, I will say I do care a lot about this game. I am really excited for this game.
Well, you can pick that slack up for both of us then.
I will.
This game needs to be something I want to play first, because this whole you're in Detroit territory right now for me. Like, it's like, it looks really pretty. I know it's going to be stupid.
Look, I will say this. I will say Metal Gear Solid 5 increased my optimism for Kojima's games as far as gameplay is concerned. It was the first Kojima game that I played, at least the first Metal Gear game that I played, where I didn't feel like, as I was playing it, I was trying to overcome some weird hiccup or shortcoming in the gameplay. It played like other games, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Or played like a game that came out the same year it came out.
Right, exactly. And so that gives me some
like
hope.
4 kind of had that thing. It's like, oh, someone played a game that came out in the last 10 years.
Well, remember that it had that weird kind of pseudo first-person mode, and like you could tell that like it just, even after 7 years of development or whatever it was, it still wasn't really where it needed to be.
You see where they wanted it to go, but it wasn't there yet. I mean, I would
the gameplay was finished in 5, but the rest of the game seemed like it was chopped.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you more about 5 if the game wasn't clearly essentially a beta release.
Well, I mean, the way the game ended is just like, wait a minute, no, there has to be something else after this.
Wait a minute, it just stops.
It stops. But
there's no story in the thing, and then the open world stuff is complete dead space. And, but like when you're actually like, when you find something to do and actually run around and shoot stuff and hide and sneak around, it works really well.
It felt good. And so with that in mind, I'm open-minded about Death Stranding, that it will be okay to play, because the concept, the art, hook, line, and sinker, I am in. I am 100% in. I love the cinematics that we've seen so far.
I just still am in the boat of, we've talked about it before, but it's like the answer to all the questions these raise is going to be stupid.
Probably.
Like, it has to be a game that's fun to play to get my attention and make me interested, and so hopefully we find out what the game is, finally.
I think how I'm looking at it is it looks like Black Mirror, the video game. Have you watched Black Mirror on Netflix?
I've watched all Black Mirror. I don't see that at all.
What do you mean?
Black Mirror is focused on social media.
No, it's all about technology in the future. And
but most of it, it's specifically about social media. Everything is tied into kind of the social media and how that disrupts
There's
stuff.
the one with the robot dogs. That has nothing to do with social media.
Yeah, but the robot dogs are an analog for kind of like that sort of like social media sort of like display and sharing and look at my life thing. Like that's like social media is the watchword.
I read an interview with the guy behind Black Mirror. He just said it's about technology. He didn't say social media.
Well, yeah, but like social media is like I would never compare Black Mirror to this. I would never in a million years think that has anything to do with any of this.
Really?
It's all too much supernatural nonsense. Like Black Mirror doesn't do that. Black Mirror is essentially hard sci-fi futurism, whereas this is clearly some kind of fantasy. Like,
I'll give you that. Black Mirror does try to present plausible futures.
I mean, it's
this is too far in the future to know whether it's plausible or not, I guess.
Or it's another dimension, or it's
I'm just saying the vibe
VR
I get
simulation
from Black Mirror, I'm getting the same vibe watching media for this game.
Well, I mean,
it's the future with advanced technology, and it's dark.
They both think the future is going to suck, yes, but that's not a parallel I would ever make, because right here, I mean, it's just magic stuff or supernatural stuff or Lovecraftian monsters lurking in the dark. Like this is a Guillermo del Toro movie, and probably not a coincidence. I mean,
well, it looks like the planet's losing gravity.
It looks like magic is happening. It looks like
all the rocks are moving up.
And now, well, no, it's like the things are taking him away, and he's killing himself so he doesn't have to live through whatever they're going to do to him.
Well, look, Matt, we don't have to agree on everything, and this is another case where we do not agree. I think this concept looks awesome. Absolutely does remind me of Black Mirror, and it's a big reason why I'm excited for it. I agree with you that I have concerns about the gameplay because it's a Kojima game, but Metal Gear Solid 5 made me feel a little bit better about that.
They can't go through this E3 without showing it how it plays.
Yeah. You would hope.
This is not Black Mirror. This is not something that would happen in Black Mirror. This is like some kind of Lovecraft old god thing.
I honestly have no idea what's going on. And I think the part of the mystery of that is what's got me intrigued. But
oh yeah, if it was anyone else telling the story, I would be intrigued. But I know Kojima's going to have a dumb answer to this.
That's a pretty safe bet. So that's one of Sony's big...
But wait, this is the playable part.
Right.
This is the part where you can play.
What did he say? You can move the camera.
You move something around. Yeah, this is actual interactive here.
Yeah. Well, I think he was trying to sell the idea that the visuals were running in real time instead
I believe
of
that.
pre-rendered.
I mean, Kojima has there ever been a time when Kojima did a trailer or something where it was like this is real time and it turned out to not be?
Yeah,
no.
he is not a bullshot artist.
No, he isn't. He's always, even when it was something. I remember when Metal Gear Solid 2's trailer came out, I was like, no way.
Yeah,
that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
He doesn't lie about that stuff.
And to be fair, I mean, there are games that look better than this one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's completely
does this look
plausible.
as good as Detroit? No.
No, it absolutely doesn't.
But it's doing a lot more than Detroit.
Yep.
I mean, this camera pan here there's more space here than any area I've seen in Detroit.
Yep.
So and this is just weird.
Yep.
Hello, baby.
He gives you the thumbs up. It's insane. So that's one of the big games for Sony at E3 2018. One of the games that maybe should be a big game but isn't is Dreams. That wasn't listed as like one of the 4, but you know it's going to be there, and it should be there in a big way and in a final way, right? We're not going to see Dreams at E3 again, right?
No, it's coming this year.
Yeah. I mean, we have a friend that works on the game, but...
Well, coming this fiscal year. Who knows if this...
It won't be at E3. We will not have another E3 without this game being on retail.
Well, unless it's like expansion stuff or something.
Right. But this game should come out finally.
Yeah. They've been doing live streams and showing like very specific systems and how you make the music in it and stuff.
Well, they've
like
actually
that,
kind of gone underground lately. In fact, since our friends started working there, they've stopped doing their like weekly streams that they were doing for a long time.
They did a live stream a week ago.
Did they?
Yeah, with her on it, and they showed how you make music in the whole thing.
Because they were doing those once a week, where they would sit down and just mess around with the game for
like
an
hour.
hour.
4 hours long.
Oh,
it was a long video.
That's probably not a good idea.
I didn't get all the way through it, but like I don't intend to make a lot of music on this thing.
Right.
So I'm just
But
here
I think
to
it does.
play.
I mean, just the fact that you can make music is a pretty big
yeah.
deal. I mean,
I think the question a lot of people have is like, so what kind of games can you there's a whole like, oh, you can do anything. It's like, well, but you're back at that.
That's not good enough.
Yeah, you're back at that No Man's Sky question, but what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, can you make like platformers? Can you make shooters? Can you make driving games? The answer seems to be yes, but it's like, okay, well, how do you do that? I mean, we'll see.
It looks like a lot of it is just drag and drop.
Yeah, it's meant to be very simple. I think a lot of the questions come in kind of the versatility of what gameplay it offers and what you can make and how hard it is to make that versus like a 2D scroller versus like a spaceship game versus like a 3D adventure sort of thing.
Yeah. And
then kind of the idea of the varying art styles, like how flexible is that? How because like it seems to be like there's sort of this sort of marionette semi-realistic thing like we're seeing here. There's kind of the fluffy cloud dream-like thing. There's the sort of cutesy stuffed character thing, like these little bears, and then complete nightmares.
Yeah. I mean, this game's been in development now for what, 5-6 years?
Something like that,
Yeah.
Long time.
And for those of you who don't know, this is coming from the team behind Little Big Planet, which makes sense, obviously.
And Tearaway.
Yeah.
Tearaway is a criminally underrated game.
Absolutely. Are you excited for this game at this point, Matt?
If I wasn't terrible at making my own levels and stuff, I probably would be more interested. But I'm interested to play what they're offering packed in the game, and I'm interested to play what people make with it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do with Little Big Planet. I think I've built like 2 things with Little Big Planet, and then went and looked at what other people were doing. Was like, oh God, why am I wasting my time?
I'm gonna be a giant consumer remora on the back of this shark. I'm not gonna be contributing.
I was like that with LBP. Like I made 2 things, and that was pretty much all.
But this looks a lot more interesting than Little Big Planet to me because I never particularly liked Little Big Planet's aesthetic.
Yeah.
It just didn't.
No, I agree.
Didn't grab me, but this looks like weird and different, and like there's a lot of strange stuff happening. I hope Can
you sell a game without a mascot, without a lead character?
Sure. Tetris doesn't have a lead character.
Yeah. But Tetris is a puzzle game.
So is this.
But I don't think. Yeah, I guess I don't think. Is there a genre for this game?
It's whatever you want to make it, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, we have it classified as a game tool on.
I don't know. Like Command and Conquer doesn't have a main character.
Yeah, it does. Well, I guess it does. Like the Red Alert stuff has like the main bad guy.
Yeah, but the original didn't. The first couple games didn't until they figured out, let's do this crazy guy.
Yeah.
What was his name?
I don't remember. It's like 3 letters.
Yuri or something like that?
What is it?
Yuri. Yeah, Yuri's Revenge. The Red Alert games had characters, but like a lot of that, there's a lot of games that don't have characters.
But they don't look like this one though.
No, this one is it's like some kind of drugged out French comic book or something.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It's it'll be interesting to see what the response is to this. It's been
and some of that's just the really good editing in these trailers.
Yeah,
where it's like they just jump from one thing to the other, and now it's it was the end of Valerian, and now it's a teddy bear beating up zombies with a mallet, and
The other thing I would say too is that Little Big Planet was predominantly a kids game. Like most people that I know that played it because their kids played it or their kids created levels on it or whatever. I don't know a ton of adults who spent a lot of time with Little Big Planet. And looking at this looks like Little Big Planet for grown-ups.
Well, I hope so. And like, my other thing with Little Big Planet was I thought that the platforming wasn't very good.
No, it was awful.
Like it
Way
was
too
very floaty
and,
and just sort of off.
That's what turned me off to the game more than anything.
Same. And I just didn't dig it very much because the mechanics of the designing stuff in it were so intricate and clever. I mean, the things people made with that thing
It was mind-blowing.
were crazy.
Yeah.
It's like Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
It was, oh, you made a Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
In
That works.
Minecraft, it works. It plays Pokemon.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. But
I'll
like,
download it.
yeah. But like, it just wasn't interesting to me. It's I guess I don't like kind of that sort of marionette sort of cardboard
That
theater sort of
puppety-
thing. Because I don't even like that in Super
Puppety,
Mario
is that a
Brothers
word?
3.
Yeah.
No, puppety is a word. Yeah. I don't even like that in Super Mario Brothers 3. Like I find that to be off-putting. And
Yeah.
everything feels like a cardboard cutout. So maybe it's just not my thing.
Yep. We'll see, but I think it should be coming out Q4 probably.
Yeah, it'll be this year, I think.
Yeah, this calendar year.
I would think so. Yeah.
It is definitely due. Next up, we're going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima. This is one of the 4 big ones. Sucker Punch's new game that we literally know like
Very
nothing
little about. Although I think we know that the ghost part is more literal than you might think.
Right.
That there's spirity stuff happening in the game. I was a little surprised that this was one of the 4 games because I thought this game was further out.
Yeah, I mean, Sucker Punch hasn't put out anything
Yeah,
for
the
a
timing is
while.
right, but you never know. Like, and I mean, if anything we've learned from Days Gone, it could be
No, you're right.
any distance down the
Yeah,
road.
I mean, I thought that game was coming out this year without a doubt.
Yeah,
and
but,
we saw that didn't work out.
if this is close enough that they're blowing it out for this E3, like I kind of hope that we see it within the fiscal.
I mean, we might.
Especially if they lost Days Gone, this would be a fine replacement in the schedule.
But, yeah, I think that's the understatement of the show right there. I'm really hyped about this game. It's something different, which is hard to come by in 2018 in the gaming medium. Unfortunately, we're kind of at that place at this point. The fact that I know very little about it probably helps.
Yeah,
This might be one of those games where the more you learn about it, the less intrigued you are by it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see what it is because, like, I do like everything Sucker Punch has made.
Yeah, every game.
To some degree or another.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to sort of like break from what they've done before because they went from Sly Cooper to Infamous, which was
Yeah.
quite a jump.
And now from
And
Infamous,
now
to,
from Infamous
this.
to this. So, like, I know some people are kind of thinking, oh, it's going to be Infamous with Samurai, but it's like that's not really how they've rolled before.
No, it's not.
They are not afraid to change everything up that as how they operate in terms of gameplay and how things work. So I'm very interested to see what this really is as a game. In the same way that Death Stranding is like, what is it? What do you do? What is the gameplay?
At least with Death Stranding, we have like 20 minutes of cinematics. Like with this, we have this one trailer.
Yeah, we have a concept.
That's all there is. Yeah. I mean, it looks like an open world samurai game.
Maybe. I mean, it's similar to, and the other thing is like, I don't know, that little double pyramid.
Isn't that just a temple?
It looks like a temple, but it also looks like oddly modern to
Yeah.
me. Like it looks oddly graffiti-ish. I don't
So
know.
you think it might have like these dual worlds?
I don't know.
or-
So there might be some crazy stuff
There's a
going on
samurai
there.
world in Westworld now.
Yeah,
I
you never
thought
know.
that made the show jump the shark, to be honest.
Can
but-
you imagine if that's like what's happening in this, and the Sucker Punch guys are like, "Damn it!"
Yeah, yeah. You had to announce a samurai
Yeah.
world, didn't you?
But
I mean, it is Sucker Punch. I'm assuming it's an open world game.
yeah, I mean, I'm real interested. It's kind of a similar thing to Death Stranding, where it's like I don't know enough about it to be excited about it as a game, but I like the setting a lot and I like the idea a lot. So yeah, I hope it turns out to be closer to what I'm imagining than not. And if it's not what I'm imagining, I hope it's a nice surprise.
Yeah, it's just I have a lot of faith in Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
ever since the beginning, I've loved every game it's made.
Ever since Rocket Robot on Wheels.
Which was a 3D platformer starring a weird robot.
Yep.
That
Which is a very physics-based platformer published by Ubisoft that came out on the same day as Rayman 2. You want to talk about sent to die by your own publisher?
came out on a red cart, if I remember
Yep,
correctly.
a red cartridge.
Yeah, I loved that game.
It was really good. And it's still pretty good. I played it again last year, and I brought it with me when I went up to do interviews for Infamous with them, and some of the old Sucker Punch guys were like, "Wow, someone played it." It was just like
It did not sell
there
very
was
well.
there was a definite bitterness to to the memory of Rocket.
I'm sure they worked hard on
it.
It came out late in the N64's life.
Yeah, but like I said, it came out against one of the best platformers of that generation.
Yeah.
With a Rayman by the same publisher. It's amazing. Like, Ubisoft just did not care about
3D
that game.
platformers back then were very common, though.
Yeah, but on the same day, the same publisher,
that's pretty tough.
We're going to put the two games of the same genre, one by this unknown team, one by the Rayman sequel, big covers of magazines.
Which was also
they never
great.
had a chance.
Like,
Rayman 2 was great.
So good, yeah.
But I wish Rayman 2 also went on to be on the Dreamcast and I think got its re-releases and stuff. Rocket has vanished.
That's all there was, just the N64 version.
I would play a remaster of that.
Well, it's weird too because they're starting to dig up like these old N64 games, like 40 Winks, and like it's like no. There's this other game over here that's way better than that.
Yeah,
like,
Rocket is a charming little game, and the other thing is
I'm guessing Ubisoft owns the IP.
Probably it's so based in physics, especially for in a way that no one was really doing at the time, where like you had to build roller coasters and use the physics of the roller coasters to take you through and pick up the collectibles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like the puzzle stuff still worked. The graphics are ink blot tests at this point, but the puzzles still work today, I think.
Yep.
I would be up for a remaster of that game, which will never happen.
Without a doubt, will never happen. Next, we're going to talk about
unless that N64 Classic is real. Throw that sucker in there.
That's a good idea, actually.
Because I think if you're going to do an N64 Classic, like one of the best things you could do is highlight games that were never on anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that means putting stuff in like the Castlevania games, Hybrid Heaven.
Dude, Hybrid Heaven, holy cow.
Rocket Robot on Wheels.
A melee-based JRPG.
Beetle Adventure Racing.
Yeah, there's a lot of great N64 games. I've seen people saying they don't know how they're going to fill out the library for an N64 Mini. I'm like, you must have never owned an N64 then.
Well, if you take away the rare games in GoldenEye, you are kind of in a limbo a little bit.
But do you have to do that?
I think you might.
Really?
Well, you're definitely not going to get GoldenEye. Because the license
can't get Perfect Dark.
The license is gone.
Microsoft owns Perfect Dark.
Well, they've said that they might be up for letting
Although Nintendo
Rare
didn't
put
publish
they're up. No, Microsoft owns it, but Microsoft has said they're open to the idea of collaborating with Nintendo on something like that.
Done it before.
I mean, again, probably also because they know that an N64 Classic is not going to obsolete the Rare replay versions.
No,
that's still
also not going to cut into sales of Xbox One X.
No, but Microsoft has indicated they're willing to play ball on kind of sharing some Rare stuff. Although that was more brought up in the context of Banjo being in Smash Brothers.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
But there,
which could still probably
happen.
By the way.
Like Microsoft has no reason to go tooth and nail against Nintendo.
Well, if you remember,
it's probably in their best interest to be friends with Nintendo as best they can because they both got to deal with Sony.
Well, remember there was a Banjo game that came out for was it GBA?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could happen.
And there was a Mr. Pants game for GBA too, wasn't there?
Yes, Mr. Pants did indeed go.
A meme that was created by like their mailbag.
Their
blog
website
on their
mailbag.
Website.
Yeah,
it's great.
And that was the web.
Rare used to be so awesome.
That thing,
man.
and remember
they've lost all their like personality.
Remember it was Tusk from Killer Instinct that was answering all the
he was
mailbag.
Really mean.
He's like a meme, like because he's a barbarian. But that was I remember I used to read that.
Those days were so awesome.
Yeah.
Rare was so good back
Well, especially
then.
because like you'd read it and you're just like, I can't believe something owned by Nintendo was allowed to do that because it was a little edgy here.
It was absolutely.
It kind of had that sarcastic sort of edgy British humor thing going on.
Yeah.
Like, that was good times.
Those were the days. So The Last of Us Part 2. Is there anything to even say about that at this point? I'm assuming we're going to see a huge chunk of gameplay.
I guess
on-stage demo.
Nothing stops this train.
Yeah.
Would be the only thing
I still don't think it comes out this year.
No, I don't think so. But I think it could be next spring. Like you could be looking at a spring.
March, yeah.
Because it was a June release last year. Came out the week of E3 last time. It came a week of E3.
Yeah.
If they're planning on that again, it could be this is their last E3 to blow it out, and then you see it again at PSX this fall. And you get it early, first half of next year sometime.
I'm encouraged by the fact that it's one of their 4 games that they specifically mentioned.
Yeah, because that makes me think it's probably closer to done than we might think.
Absolutely.
Because without that, I was originally thinking it was probably closer to the end of next year, maybe 2020.
Yeah.
But it sounds like if they're doing this, it sounds like they might be further ahead than we believed.
Yep, and then Marvel's Spider-Man from Insomniac. We've discussed this ad nauseum on the show. I'm expecting at least like a 15-minute gameplay demo of this game.
It's 3 months out.
Yeah,
so,
it's pretty much done at this point.
Yeah.
They're just bug squashing and that sort of. I'm also probably a Game Informer cover coming pretty soon for it, or we'll get a big blowout from Game Informer about. Or wait, did they already cover Spider-Man?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, they did
yeah.
already. Yeah, that's right. They already did do that. But yeah, I mean, this game's just coming down the home stretch at this point. It's just getting polished, and the final bugs are getting squashed, and it should be. I mean, maybe they have the whole game on the floor. Who knows?
Yeah, they'll probably just do. Like I said
Timed
before,
demo.
I think it would be good to let someone play this demo. Yeah, because there was a lot of questioning about like how scripted it was, or how much freedom you had to do what you were doing, how automatic was the web swinging. It'd be fun to let people play this and be like, oh, look how much you can screw up. You know,
That's what
kind
I'm
of thing.
curious about. Obviously, having Insomniac's best tester play it for
Right.
this is a lot different than you and I walking up to a kiosk on the E3 show floor and giving it a go for the first time. But I would argue Batman's combat looks pretty darn good in the hands of the average Joe.
Yeah.
There's no reason why Insomniac couldn't do the same thing with Spider-Man. This is your most anticipated game of E3?
I think so.
Yeah.
As far as what we know about.
Yeah.
It's probably my most anticipated game for the rest of the year right now. I mean, not that the rest of the year is super packed, but
Yeah.
also it's my top pick on my fantasy
All right.
draft, so it better be good.
Well, I think you can breathe pretty easy that it's going to at least be good.
Yeah.
Will it be like God of War good?
Yeah, we'll be 97 Metacritic good. I don't know.
We'll see. Well, we're going to find
I
out.
mean, I
here
think
in
I'm
just
gonna
about
like
10
it
days.
regardless,
Well, of
but-
course. Yeah, I think I'm going to like it regardless as well. I've liked pretty much every Spider-Man game since like Spider-Man 2 or whatever. Even though some of them weren't that great, I still enjoyed playing them because I
Maybe you
love the
didn't play
character.
Amazing Spider-Man 1.
I did not. No.
No, you didn't miss anything.
It sounds like it. But I expect this game to be blown out. Probably the biggest of any game by Sony at E3.
Yeah, this seems like it would be a good focus, especially considering how hot Marvel is right now.
Yep. For a million reasons. It should be the game. I mean, it's coming out the soonest.
It's pretty much their big gun of the fall,
Yeah.
as far as exclusives go, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unless The Last of Us Part 2 somehow.
I don't think so.
We get a miracle. How
And
awesome would that be?
even then, I think this is bigger than Last of Us 2.
Really?
Yeah, Last of Us 2 doesn't have the penetration of Spider-Man.
I'd agree with that, but I think it will sell more than Spider-Man.
I don't think it will.
Really?
I think Last of Us is a hardcore gaming darling, but it doesn't sell like a really top-level Spider-Man game would.
We'll see.
I don't even think it's going to sell. I don't know if Last of Us will sell God of War numbers. God of War numbers
it won't.
is up there.
But it's already sold God of War sold 5 million in the first week and a half.
Yeah, but I think Spider-Man's going to sell like God of War.
You think?
Yeah.
Think it'll sell 5 million in the first week or two?
It could.
Huh.
Do not underestimate the Marvel.
A lot of
right
it will
now.
depend on how good it is.
Right.
But
like,
obviously, it's Spider-Man. The IP's huge.
yeah.
And people have been waiting for a great Spider-Man game.
I wouldn't have thought God of War would sell like that either.
Yeah. I was shocked by those sales numbers.
But I think Spider-Man has it. I mean, Spider-Man's the biggest, in terms of merchandising, is the biggest comic character in all time.
Yeah, I believe it.
By a giant margin.
When I was a
Like,
kid, he was my favorite
Batman
superhero
is
by
like
a mile.
Batman is a distant second, and you'd think Batman would be up there.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man, just in terms of merchandise sales, like number one by something like a factor of 3 or 4.
Interesting.
Spider-Man is, you can't beat Spider-Man. Everybody loves Spider-Man.
Hey there.
Except my mom. My mom doesn't like Spider-Man. She thinks he's creepy.
My mom still sings the Spider-Man theme song from the old cartoon. Hey there.
Yeah. So my mom used. It was funny because like I always.
I
Thought
know
it
all
was,
the words to that
I always
song,
thought it
so-
was dumb that J. Jonah Jameson tried to make him seem scary and evil.
Yeah.
And like that, like, oh, we can't trust him, and da, da, da. I'm like, who couldn't trust Spider-Man? And then like my mom would be like, oh, he's creepy. I don't like him. I'm like, that's just what the people who read the Daily Bugle think. So I'm like, so my mom's dislike of Spider-Man makes
That's funny.
Spider-Man feel so much realer to me
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like that's totally what would happen because my mom would believe the Daily Bugle.
That's great. Fake news.
Fake news.
The last game that might be shown, but it looks like it probably won't be, is Days Gone.
Days Gone is gone.
Yeah, Sony Bend
another
already
year.
kind of said that it won't really be at E3.
I'm sure it'll
Which
be
I'm
kind
surprised.
of nebulously around.
I mean, if they let Game Informer play 2 hours of it, they can't put a demo out on the floor? Like,
I would think it'd probably be maybe they won't have their own theater, but I would bet like this would be out on the floor or something.
I mean, look, Sony does not put a lot of its high-profile games on the floor
That's
to
true.
play. You have to go in a theater and watch somebody else play
I don't think
them.
you were ever able to play Horizon Zero Dawn on the floor.
No, like if you were a judge, you could go into the theater and they'd let you play it for a little bit to prove that it was real.
For like 5 seconds, you could move the character around. It's like, see, it's real. Give me back.
To prove it's real, and then that would be it.
I feel like you kind of need to. I feel like you need to kind of sell this game a little bit.
Yeah, isn't it funny that Sony's just relying on Game Informer to kind of do all the marketing?
I don't feel like this is like Horizon, where Horizon is sort of like all you got to do is look at some of that game.
You're like, wow.
Like, whoa, look at that. Look at the girl with a high-tech bow, bullet time blowing away the giant mecha T-Rex. I was like, that's awesome. But this is like, okay, bikers and zombies? Like, you're going to need to give me more than that.
I agree. And there will not be another E3 before it comes out either.
Yeah.
So.
And it just looks so much like, if you told me this was like Last of Us Gaiden, I'd believe you. Like it looks so much like some.
So it
kind
doesn't
of
look as good, but
no, but it looks like it could be in the same world. You know, it's like it's kind of that general sort of everybody's kind of a grungy, beardy man, like wearing grimy clothes, and there's zombies out there, but we're really trying to do our own thing, and we've got sort of this underground thing. Because I mean, that's what Joel and what's her name are doing at the beginning of Last of Us.
Joel and Ellie,
not Ellie. What's her the woman that? I can't remember her name. The woman he's with at the beginning. Yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, but they're kind of like, you get the impression they're sort of like couriers, maybe they do like gray market stuff, or they got some hustle going on, It's like the zombies are almost treated as like like nuisances in if you're not out in the wilds sort of thing. There's a similar kind of feel to this. Like if the zombies were like fungus creatures and not like World War Z runny guys, I would be sort of like, you could basically just make this Last of Us 1.5 or something.
I mean, you could tell me that this was a third-party game published by like Focus Home Interactive, and I would be like, okay, like it wouldn't shock me all that much. I mean, it's certainly not up to the level of most Sony first-party games. Yeah,
I mean, it's like if you put it in front of me, I'd play it.
Yeah, of course.
But like, it's definitely not as sexy as everything else on the Sony's slate. I would say.
And maybe that's why it's not going to be at E3.
Yeah,
it's possible that it could just be like. Look,
makes you wonder how far out it is. Like, if it's maybe not even this fiscal.
It'll be this fiscal.
You would think.
It was supposed to come out like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And they delayed it basically a whole year. So I just...
Like at a certain point, you feel like you have to get this out or you're going to ruin the books.
After you let Game Informer play it for 2 hours, it can't be that far away.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually played it for longer than that.
They did play it for a long time. It's like, it's so weird to me that something that they did that with isn't coming this year.
I know, it's crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen
You're talking about a game coming out essentially almost a year after that coverage.
That kind of a blowout. Yeah, it's really weird. So, shockingly, that is Sony's lineup for E3 2018. And we're even embellishing a little bit here. We're talking about Days Gone and Dreams, which Sony hasn't even mentioned. Maybe Dreams isn't there. Who knows?
Dreams is in there somewhere. It's got to be. Even if it's just like a demo thing on the floor in the booth, or like, I don't know, it's got to be. Or they're going to do a bunch of stuff with it on the live stream.
What do you think is going to happen with PlayStation VR at E3?
Very little.
You think? Because it seems like there's still like a lot of support.
They're still holding on. It's still, like some of my friends were asking like what was going on with VR and the Xbox today, and I'm just like, VR is kind of
dead already.
Dead in the water. I mean, it's not a failure, but it's sort of gotten where it's going to get, and you're going to have to deal with it. It kind of is a failure, though. Yeah, not to hear everybody tell it who's putting the goggles out.
Yeah.
But like, it's not setting anything on fire, but it's like I think we've hit. It's Star Trek movie, ironically, because Star Trek just had that big update.
Right.
It's Star Trek movie. That's okay. We figure here's the line. This is where it is. Now we just have to work within these parameters. Like I think that's where they're at. I know Pachter was thinking there might be some kind of hardware refresh on the VR,
wireless
VR, wireless. I mean, everybody else is doing it, so it's entirely possible that Sony could do it. It would be nice because I'll tell you the wires are a thing.
The other thing too, I mean, one thing I will say is Sony has not stopped supporting it.
No, it's still. There's still
they just announced that
PSVR stuff,
standalone 3D platformer based upon what was that demo that came out right with PlayStation VR with the little robots?
On the PlayStation Worlds thing.
Yeah, it wasn't even World; it was something else. But you know what I'm talking about. Like they just announced a full-on 3D platformer starring that character, and I think that was one of the best experiences on PlayStation VR.
Yeah, it was that Playroom thing.
Yeah, Playroom VR.
Playroom VR.
Yeah. And so Sony's still all in. I'm just thinking third parties at this point are going to start to recoil. We saw Ubisoft kind of get in early with some stuff, but I mean, a lot of third parties have stopped announcing
Ubi's still supporting
VR games.
the Star Trek thing, which I thought was not in the cards.
Yeah, VR has kind of become like an indie thing.
A little bit.
A lot of the smaller studios are the ones creating VR games now.
And they're
I think
the ones,
that's why we're seeing games that are not going to.
And they're also the ones that are doing well enough to surprise themselves. I think and the support's there. I mean, like Archangel got a multiplayer update. Yeah. Which is impressive for a game whose campaign is on rails. It's formed its own kind of little sub world. It's certainly not going to be. It's certainly not the wave of the future. You're starting to feel a little bit like the VR proponents. I always thought this, but now it's even more to me. It's like if you've seen Say Anything, where Lloyd Dobler is continually saying that he does kickboxing, sport of the future.
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing. It's like
no, not so much.
I mean, kickboxing isn't going away.
Yeah,
but it's probably not the sport of the future just yet. And so I keep thinking with the VR thing, it's like it's still going to be there. But the people that thought like in 4 years this is how we consume all interactive content, they were never.
Notice we have not seen a single big studio make a VR game other than Insomniac.
No, Ubi. I mean.
Yeah.
Ubi supports everything.
Maybe I should have rephrased that as we have not seen a big development team or studio make a VR game.
Yeah, well, I mean,
even the big publishers tend to schleff that stuff off on their B
like
teams.
The closest you could say would be like Double Fine, and that's more like you've heard of them.
They're even indie at this point.
I mean, they're not big. They're not. Yeah. It's not like if Kojima said he was going to do a VR game.
No one like that has made a VR game, and I think that's what it's going to take to be.
Or like Activision would be like the Black Ops 4 will have a VR mode.
I mean, Resident Evil 7 probably is the best example of that.
Yeah, Capcom is dove in on that.
Yeah, but I mean, it has sold 5 million copies, so it hasn't done terrible. But you can play it without VR as well.
Yeah, I think moving forward, and Star Trek did that too. Star Trek put in the update where you can play it without the VR.
That's kind of the way forward.
I think you got to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, even as someone who owns 2 VR headsets, sometimes I just want to play the game.
Yeah.
I did that with Megaton Rainfall.
Yeah.
Which is again another indie
It does.
thing.
I mean, sometimes it does get in the way of just kicking back and enjoying a game.
Sometimes I want to play something. I don't want to
sit up with the helmet and all the sensors all around. Yeah, I get it. So we'll see. I think no mention of Vita this year. Safe to say. Other than to say maybe rest in peace. Do you think maybe we'll do some in memoriam for the Vita?
No.
Although
I would say there's still the off chance that
it would piss too many people off.
Some developer they let up there to do some spiels is it's like we wanted to do a Vita version, we didn't. They say like a little like Vita shout out somewhere maybe, but I feel like we're not going to see a Vita montage or anything unless it is in fact
an in memoriam.
Like they put a little coffin and just bury it.
Which would be great. Yeah, absolutely.
Vita means life.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
All right, so that's Sony at E3 2018. I know, people, shocking. There's not a lot to talk about. Maybe that bodes well. Maybe that means there's going to be a ton of surprises.
Or maybe it just means they're going to blow out some of these games we don't know anything about, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and spend 15 minutes on Death Stranding. If you're going to show me how it plays.
Third parties are humming now on PlayStation and Xbox at this point.
Yeah.
They don't need to show.
And a lot of them have their own conferences.
Yeah.
So they don't need the Sony conference, maybe.
You're right. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a new Fallout game.
Oh, do you think they'll have a little Black Ops section?
What do you mean? In their booth?
Yeah, no, I mean like in the press conference, because Sony still has the deal with them.
Yeah, but there's no paid DLC, right?
They still might get it first.
They will get it first, but I think there's not paid anymore.
Yeah, I still like a little trailer, a little highlight thing. Don't forget about Black Ops 4.
Or maybe while somebody's talking, it's just like a part of like a PowerPoint presentation that they show or something like that. But I doubt they'll show like a trailer or anything like that. We'll see. Next, we're going to talk about a new Fallout game, but it's not a Fallout game that you might expect. I think at first people thought maybe it was.
That was silly.
Yeah. But then Kotaku basically came out and said, no, our sources are telling us that Fallout 76 is an online survival game set a couple hundred years earlier than Fallout 3 and 4.
Well, not too much.
If my memory serves. I thought it was a couple hundred years.
I don't know how you do that.
Well, the Vault 76 is the first vault to open. The vaults that you live in for 3 and 4 are much later on down the road.
Well, so in Fallout 4, it's been 210 years since the war. It's
and so in this one, it's been 70 years or something.
I don't know.
So it's 100 plus years.
20.
Before...
So the war in Fallout. I just been playing Fallout 4 because it was super cheap on the Xbox, and for some reason I owned all the DLC already, but not the main game. And the game was really. I'm like, I don't know how that happened.
How's that even possible?
It must have been some gold deal or something. Where it was like $5 for the season pass.
You're
and
like,
I'll just get that.
Right.
One day I might need it. So
and
I did. So I've been playing that. I like it better actually this time around, probably because I don't have any high expectations of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff in that game. The idea of them bolting multiplayer onto that engine is horrifying to me. But anyway, so the war was in 2077. And then you wake up in like 2187 or 2287 in Fallout 4. So yeah, 70 years is about where a little earlier than the first Fallout takes place.
What I was getting at is that the reason it's set so much earlier than the other games is because it's a survival game. Apparently the Fallout is still something that you need to deal with. The atmosphere is not cleared out. And you have to literally rebuild society from scratch after a nuclear holocaust.
Although, spoilers, you don't really pull it off, judging by the other games.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder how they explain that away.
So this is something like Rust or DayZ.
It's very much like H1Z1.
Ark Survival Evolved,
Yep.
or whatever that was. Is that it?
Yeah, that's right.
That?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one with the dinosaurs.
It is, yeah. Unfortunately, I bounce off this genre so hard.
I hate survival games.
Ark Survival Evolved the fact that you can ride dinosaurs, I should be playing that every day.
No, I know.
I just can't.
Did you ever try it?
Yeah, I tried it.
That's because the first 20 minutes of it are so damn frustrating.
It's just complete tedium from
really
start
is.
to finish.
And a lot of them are. Like Conan Exiles just came out.
Yeah.
Same thing. Just boring, tedious.
But there are dong physics.
Yeah, dong physics. Yeah,
Conan Exiles is weird because like when you die, you have to run naked back to your corpse and get your stuff back.
Right.
And so like it's mostly just naked people running everywhere because they're people who die. And then like you can't even like once you get your stuff, you have to actually equip all of it.
Just a vision in my mind of a bunch of naked dudes just running in all different directions with dong physics.
Chased by mammoths.
Right.
That's basically Conan right there.
Yeah, their PR person emailed me like incessantly trying to get me to cover and we just did. So there you go.
There you are.
Congratulations, we just covered Conan Exiles.
Naked people running from mammoths
with dong physics. So it's safe to say that you were pretty disappointed when you found out what Fallout 76 was.
Yes.
Yeah. I think most people were.
I like the trailer because I like the song.
Yeah.
But, and I like kind of the fancy. The fancy 70s, the fancy vault suit, like it has kind of like a chrome or a gold lame kind of thing going on in the 76. Like I dig that. I like the lore of Fallout and building on that. At least it also kind of proves that they're willing to go early. Because one of the things that playing Fallout 4 again just drives home all over again to me. They're too far out from the apocalypse at this point. Like they're 210, they're 2 centuries out from the nuclear war, and it's like, am I really supposed to believe that no one looked in this drawer and found the jar of beans
that's been there for
200 years? Like 200 yards from Boston. Why do people have?
That's great.
Why do the guys who run the bar in the Diamond City have Russian accents?
Right.
Why are there people with different accents at all? It should all just be Boston people.
Right, yeah.
Why does someone 210 years from the nuclear apocalypse still know the Pak the Ka and Harvard Yard thing?
Right, yeah.
Like, why do you even know what that is? Like, I just feel like you're too far out from that, and it's just like they're kind of a theme of rebuilding happening with Diamond City and stuff. But like,
there's base building
feels like
stuff
you can't,
in Fallout 4.
But also you can't. It just feels like you can't keep the Fallout feel in terms of sort of this wandering the wastes thing and still have it be that far. I think it's much, Fallout 1 and 2 were set more like a 70 to 100 years gap after the nuclear war, and that feels like the right time for that kind of story.
Yeah.
And like, at least if they're going back to that time, and Bethesda's tendency to reuse stuff means that they might be willing to do something closer to that that era for the actual Fallout 5, which I would be behind. I certainly don't want them to keep moving forward into the future of the setting. I want them to go back to the basics of it to some degree.
Well, it appears the game is being created by Battlecry Studios.
So at least we know what they're doing.
Yeah, because we've been wondering, because that game Battlecry was shown at E3 2 years ago. Not just shown, but took up the predominant amount of real estate in Bethesda's booth.
Yeah.
Had like 30 kiosks of people playing head-to-head, and then poof. Gone. Just vanished. And we're like, wait a minute, that's been like a couple years now. Yeah. What is that studio doing?
What is the studio named after the game?
Studio.
Yeah.
Well, they're working on this game.
Guess now they're Studio 76.
Yeah, they might change their name. That's quite possible. But yeah, I was pretty disappointed. I mean, I don't know. I was torn because I was pleasantly surprised to see we're getting a Fallout game so soon.
Yeah, well, I thought it was.
But then I was disappointed that it wasn't a real Fallout game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was kind of expecting it to be like
a New Vegas type thing.
No, I thought it was gonna be like Fallout Shelter 2 exclusive to the Switch or something. I thought it was gonna be just something like that.
Just garbage. Something you didn't care about.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't particularly care about this either, but I care about it more than Fallout Shelter 2.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Like, I guess we'll wait and see what it looks like, but like that is not a genre I play because I find it frustrating and irritating.
You think it's just Bethesda trying to find a game as a service?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it is.
And right? It makes more sense to do it with Fallout than just about anything else they have. And they already have Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
And I don't think Fallout Online would really... I don't think a Fallout MMO would really do anybody any favors because, like the survival aspect kind of demands loneliness to some degree, and like the lone survivor. The main character in Fallout 4 is called the sole survivor.
Yeah.
And I just feel like you've got tons of guys in vault suits running around. It's just ridiculous. But if you can pull that off in a survival game like this, because you've got you kind of free it up if you're doing like the first vault. It'll be interesting to see what the experiment is for the vault, because every vault has its own weird experiment. I don't fault Bethesda
for this at all.
No.
Look, if there's any
it's not
publisher,
my thing, but
if there's any publisher who at this point in the game, I give the green light to publish a game as a service, it's Bethesda.
Sure.
Or maybe Sony.
And clearly, it's by the Battlecry guys, so clearly it's not taking time away from whatever Bethesda's in-house team is working on for Fallout 5 or for Elder Scrolls 6, whatever it is. It's like everything a company puts out doesn't have to be interesting to me.
Yeah,
that's fine. I didn't like Fallout Tactics either. So, could be worse. Could be Fallout Brotherhood of Steel 2.
Now they are saying that there are quests and stuff like that in the game.
Sure.
So it's not a complete departure, but
I mean, we'll see what it's like. I mean, like if it's
and I didn't mind the base building in Fallout 4. I didn't love it.
I wasn't a huge fan of it, but like I like kind of the building up of sort of a series of settlements, and once I figured out how like supply chains worked and sending guys, you go here and then I can access my inventory from this place and that place and build this up and do that, it became much less. I feel like it wasn't explained very well, but once I understood it, it all felt. I was again. I'm not a builder in games like that. I'm not gonna build my own house and decorate it with cue balls and stuff everywhere, but like. In terms of kind of like having this sort of colonial support network going on, it was pretty cool.
All right, we got to pick up the pace.
I forgot to move the stick, and we have lost the TV.
I told you you'd forget.
Well, my plan was to do it between segments, and I was doing that, but the segments have gotten very long.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk next about Microsoft at E3 2018. In my opinion, Matt, Microsoft is the publisher with the most upside, because when you're starting at zero, seriously though,
nowhere to go but up.
Seriously though, I mean that's the honest to God's truth.
I feel like there's still a strong potential for a lateral move here, though.
Really?
Yes.
It can't get any worse.
It can't get any worse, but it could just stay the same.
I mean, think about it, Matt. We've got Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2.
But what can they show that could move the needle?
Well, they're saying that they have all these unannounced games in development, and
well, they better not be sequels to things I already don't care that much about.
I predict we are going to see a lot of trailers.
Many trailers.
And not much gameplay.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, there's rumors going around that they're announcing 3 Gears of War games.
How does that work?
Gears 5, an RTS like Halo Wars style, and another one that no one really knows anything about.
Why? Why are they making a
Tripling down on Gears of War does not mean tripling down on Gears of War is not a wise choice. To
not
me.
at the not
I mean,
in
Gears
2018.
5, fine,
Yeah.
like, great, cool. But like, you're gonna do like Gears 5, and then you're gonna do like a Halo Wars Gears game,
And like a Gears of War card battle game,
or like or like the third one would be like the Battle Royale
right?
thing.
That's possible.
I don't know. Like, I don't want that much Gears of War.
I really don't either. I mean, honestly, even the next game coming right now seems a little early.
Yeah, it's 2 years. Like, it's about right, especially if Halo's taking its time.
Well, maybe part of it is that we're just so used to not getting anything for Xbox that now I'm like, wait, 2 years? That's too quick. It should be like 5. I mean, we've been waiting for Halo for a while now.
Well, I mean, please have a segment in your press conference that explains to me why Crackdown 3 has taken this long, because what in the world could be in that? It seems like what we've seen of it, even what we saw at E3 last year, seems like just such a paint-by-numbers follow-up to those
Maybe
games.
that's what they're doing, is they're trying to make it so it's not a paint.
You know what I would be doing if I were them is I'd be trying to make, because you remember like there was the whole thing with like the building destruction was only in multiplayer.
Yeah.
I would be trying to put that in the campaign.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Unify the two.
I mean, I will say this: when we saw Gears last year running on Xbox One X, it looked damn good. I don't know if you have Gears here for yours.
I do.
But it almost looked like a different game running on the X.
Oh yeah, it
And
looked
so
like like a painting.
So now I start to think about, okay, what happens when they build the game from the beginning with the X in mind? What's the game going to look like? So I'm excited to check it out. Crackdown 3, I could really care less if this game just disappeared forever. I mean, it is one of those games where if I woke up tomorrow and it said Crackdown 3 is canceled, I'd be like, don't really care.
I mean, it is interesting. This week, Aaron Greenberg had to go on Twitter and confirm that it was not canceled.
Yeah,
because there was the rumors of
there was
delays,
a
a bunch of
listings, like
pre-orders
retail
got
listings
canceled,
that-
and like I mean, I don't think it's gonna get canceled, but like, I mean, I liked Crackdown 1. I didn't like Crackdown 2 all that much, but then like Crackdown 1 became one of the Xbox, like, you know, the Xbox One X enhanced games of a couple months ago, and I went back and played it. I didn't like it very much.
Yeah.
Like, it hasn't aged very well. The controls don't quite work as far as I'm concerned in a modern context. Crackdown 3 is going to have to bring something special and new to the table to make me think that it's really going to be. I mean, like, the building destruction here looks really cool, but if that's not in the campaign, like, that's not going to help me because I don't really care about playing multiplayer.
Vincent is saying that the third Gears game is in fact rumored to be a battle royale game.
Well, that's what I heard. I mean, I'm not.
That's
I'm
terrible.
Not making it up.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought you were just making a joke, because that's not even really a joke.
I mean,
at
that's
this
what I
point.
heard. I mean, no, I don't have any actual evidence of
Right,
that.
right.
But like, that's what I heard. It was like the third one is like some kind of battle royale thing.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that goes against my instinct in the sense that you'd think you'd integrate it into Gears 5, but it also maybe makes sense if Gears 5's already underway, you have another company, another developer another team jump on that.
Xbox also has PUBG.
True.
I mean, it's the one console that PUBG is on.
But like I said before, like, PUBG is not on the level of these things in terms of presentation. And like,
No,
I think
absolutely.
you've got the major publishers, you know, they're all racing to the same point. Like, who's going to get the AAA PUBG
No, you're right.
winner, you know?
Yeah.
And I think they're all just going to hit each other in the head when they reach that point.
the market's gonna get totally saturated
Yeah, but
and-
someone's going to come out on top.
Yeah.
And who knows who that is.
Yep.
It's probably not going to be the Gears game.
Probably not. Halo 6. You think we're going to see Halo 6?
I think we're going to see a teaser.
Think we'll see a trailer?
Yeah.
They're definitely due for that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
they're way overdue for
I
it.
think that's next fall. That's 2019.
They really need a game this holiday. You think it's Gears?
I think it's Gears 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or some form of Gears.
At this point, if you're Xbox or Microsoft, you have to be looking at, like, okay, we have the Coalition and we have 343. Coalition somehow has managed to put out a game every couple of years. Mm-hmm. And 343, on the other hand,
343 put Halo out every 2 years
at first.
at first, and then they had to go back to the drawing board because Halo 5 was terrible.
Well, I wouldn't say it was terrible, but
From single player kind of like, you know, mythos of the Halo franchise it was. Like, and Halo 5 and Halo 4 were not great campaign turn-ins.
no, I agree with that.
Multiplayer.
1000%. The multiplayer in 5 was better, though.
Sure, that's not what. But they feel like, I think they feel they need to reinvent it in terms of like how they're treating the lore and the franchise. Because look, Halo ended at 3. Like,
It
Halo
really
was
did.
over after 3. Like,
It
the
really
story was
was.
told.
Yeah.
It was done. I mean, the last we ever heard of Master Chief should have been "Wake Me If You Need Me."
Yeah.
And if they're insisting on going forward with this, like they need to get rid of the Prometheans, they need to tell a story that has 3 acts and not just tell an act 1 over and over again and hint that for 2 games in a row that Cortana's going rampant. Either let it happen or shut up about it. I mean, it's
What's
just
the phrase? Shit or get off the pot,
pretty
right?
much. It's just like you gotta tell a story again. And it can't all be this like mystery box J.J. Abrams tease what could happen thing. Just make it happen. Like Halo 5 ended where like its 3rd mission should have ended.
No,
like, you got to tell a complete story and stop doing these planned trilogy things. Especially because I think the patience for something like that is becoming shorter and shorter. Because nowadays, like what's the big, in terms of like franchise stuff, what's the big thing right now? The Marvel movies. Yeah. And when you watch you watched Avengers: Infinity War, when you get to find out what happens next, like you get to see Ant-Man 3 months later. You get to see the next Infinity War, the follow-up to Avengers 4. You get to see Avengers 4 a year from now. Like people aren't going to sit around and wait 2-3 years for the next Halo game. You got to tell a complete story.
Yeah.
You got to give us something worthwhile in that. And the multiplayer will more or less take care of itself, I guess, because it's not like they make terrible multiplayer over and over again. At this point, rather than Halo 6, the thing I'm most interested in Halo-wise is the patch they're going to put up this summer for Master Chief Collection to make it work right. Which they still haven't done in 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
It's not going to happen, man.
And then you've got
Let it go.
Oh, no, it is.
It is going to happen?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They announced that months and months ago.
What do they have, like 2 people working on it?
No, they got a whole team doing it. Like
really?
Bungie, 343 considers the debacle of Master Chief Collection to be a big black mark on their
really?
record. And they're going back to redo it. They're redoing all the games are going to be 4K, 60 frames a second. Like they're up
Oh, wow.
Xbox One Xing it, and they're going to supposedly basically they said, and who knows, the details of this, but basically what they said is the problems with the matchmaking and the online stuff required a complete redo of the Xbox backend before it could be fixed. And now that has happened in the recent updates of the Xbox One OS, and now they can make it work. And so they're going to do it themselves. They're not doing it outsourcing anything like that. So July something, I can't remember what the date was, they said, but I think July something, late July, they're going to put up this big old patch that brings everything up to speed, supposedly fix all that stuff. And I'm way more interested to play through Halo 1 through 3 and ODST again in 4K than I am to wait around and see what kind of stupid like tap dancing they can pull off with Master Chief and Cortana on the Shield world again, because I am tired of shooting Prometheans.
Hear ya. Forza Horizon 4, not really announced yet.
I think it's a given, though.
It's pretty much a given. I hope. I drafted it on my fantasy team.
And some concept art leaked a week or two ago.
Yeah, it looks like it's a done deal, but... And I mean, typically they are announced at E3.
Yeah.
They're usually not announced before. So
this is just such a gimme. Like they're on a roll. They're on a pattern every 2 years. Playground Games puts one of these things out. It's always well received. They've never made a bad one. Just do it again.
Still, this game we're looking at right now is still my favorite driving game of this generation.
I can get behind that. I got to admit, I went when they Xbox One enhanced it. I went and played Forza Horizon 1 again.
Yeah.
And I think that's still my favorite one.
Oh, really?
I think that's, even with all the broy festival crap.
I mean, they all have that.
Yeah, but the one was worse.
Yeah.
And it had like that, because you didn't get to pick your avatar. You played that like one dude bro character.
Yeah.
And like the girl who's like here on the radio, the festival organizer, keeps like, wow, you're really moving up. It's just like, shut up. Stop don't make me, my ego does not need some kind of inflation from a digital voice actor telling me how cool my fake car is. Like, give me a break.
Okay, so a couple hopefuls for Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
I put this rundown together earlier in the day, and then later in the day, something happened that peed all over my hopes and dreams. So
I get see what you did there.
Yeah, I had put Scalebound on the rundown with a question mark, like, hey, maybe with the X now they can get that up and running. They'll go back and talk.
Then Platinum said, like, yeah, we're never working with a publisher again.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, so they did an interview with who was it, Games Industry. And they're just basically like, yeah, Scalebound taught us that we do not want to work with publishers anymore. Mm-hmm. We do not want to give up our IP anymore.
Someone should do like a panel at GDC or something of or even E3 Coliseum for next year, and it's just developers who got screwed by publishers while making Dragon games.
Yeah, there's
Because
a lot of them.
you got them, you got Lair, the Factor 5 guys with Lair.
Yeah.
I feel like you could assemble a panel
Yeah.
out of that.
I would go watch that panel.
I would absolutely.
It would
go.
probably be the
If
most
you haven't-
popular panel.
If you haven't read Polygon's article on Factor 5 and Lair and all that stuff,
really good.
which is from I think January this year, fascinating. And just the first line is the head of Factor 5 being like, "That was a complete fucking mess. It was all my fault." It was just like, "Oh, okay."
I'll tell you what else is great was I believe also Polygon wrote it this week. It was a history of retro studios. Did you read that?
No, I saw it, but I didn't.
I
read it.
knew pretty much everything that they wrote about, but I realized that nobody had really told that story since it happened. Like, the guy who started Retro Studios was a scumbag. Like, back when he started Retro, and everyone was like, what's going on with Metroid Prime? And everyone thought it was going to get canceled. He was, like, posting photos online of him with, like, strippers on yachts. No, I'm not kidding. Like,
I'm sure you aren't kidding.
Hundreds and hundreds of them. Of him literally with his shirt off, with beers in his hands, and just blatant strippers, like, all over the place. And we were like, bro, that's Nintendo's money. You're spending Nintendo's money.
No wonder Miyamoto was mad.
He was. It's a great story. It is up on SIFTD. Just search for Retro Studios in the search bar.
Does it go
and
into?
you pull it up.
You remember when they had like those other games like on the slate?
It talks about all of it.
Raven, shit. That was his like pet game, as I remember.
Well, they had like it's an awesome article. Go read it whenever we get finished here. They talk about everything.
Reading a Polygon, like, you know, I'm not a huge Polygon fan overall, but like their features that just can't be beat.
They're great.
And but you got to settle in.
Yeah.
Those
I mean,
those
truth
are
be
some-
told,
some
probably
in-depth work.
80% of the content we curate from Polygon is their features. And we curate all of them because they're really good. They do great work in that stuff. I don't care what you say. They do great features. And then the last hopeful game, Perfect Dark. What chances do you think there are of us seeing it? Because look, they're saying they're going to show a bunch of unannounced games.
I think there's a 0% chance of this.
Really?
Rare is all hands on deck on Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
The only possibility, I mean, I know Rare said they might be willing to let other teams license out their properties if they want.
Yeah.
So maybe that was kind of paving the road for the idea of like, oh, these guys are making Perfect Dark, by the way. I don't think it's going to happen.
Maybe that's one of the projects.
Maybe it'll happen
one of the
later.
New studios is taking on.
Yeah, it could be, but I don't think we'd see it.
That's some pretty valuable IP that's just laying there doing nothing for Microsoft.
Is Perfect Dark valuable?
I think it is.
I think it
still
not.
has cachet. I think the game we're looking at right now, Perfect Dark Zero, hurt it a ton.
Yeah, but there's only 2 games. So, I mean, I like the original Perfect Dark on the N64. I don't think it matters anymore. I don't think there's any recognition of this brand.
Well, I would say probably 98% of the people playing Fortnite have probably never heard of Perfect Dark.
Right. Yeah.
That I would definitely say.
I just don't think it buys you anything. You know,
Yeah.
like if you put this out, there's going to be 2 reactions. One is from the people that have no idea what it is and be like, "What is that?
What is that?" Yeah.
And also, what does Perfect Dark mean? Like, that's on the level of Infinite Undiscovery in terms of dumb titles.
Yeah.
And the other reaction is from people like us who do know. It's like, oh, we're trying this again.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think Perfect Dark earns you any respect. You know what I would play? Cameo 2.
Yeah.
I feel like
Maybe it was more like the original concept.
Yeah, I feel like there's a
Cameo was
great
supposed
game
to
in
be.
Cameo somewhere. And
Well, it
they
was
just
when
never
they
found
started it, and then they ruined it. Like, literally, when it was a GameCube game, it was very interesting and cool. Then it went over, once Rare was purchased by Microsoft, Microsoft got in there and started fiddling around, and it turned into something completely different.
I think the tech is there to do Cameo upright this time.
Oh, absolutely.
So I would be on board for a Cameo 2. Hell, I'd be on board for Jet Force Gemini
2.
Something. Like
Anything.
whatever. Don't even call it 2. Just make it again.
Just
do
reboot
it again.
Yeah, I would be down for that. That's
They have a lot of
cult
stuff.
hit.
Yeah, well,
Another great N64 game.
Yeah, well, I just don't think. The thing is about it, I don't think that those kind of properties have any kind of real pull in the market in terms of making them a mainstream big hit of elevating the Xbox brand. But like, they're good ideas. You could turn something out from them that would be that, and don't need to, you wouldn't need to know that they're from the N64 or whatever to think they're great. The other thing that I think Microsoft get that frickin' Fable game out there. That's part of the problem. Is like there's no variety in the lineup. It's all shooty and Forza.
And then they ditch the studio that makes Fable. It's like
and so like if Playground Games is indeed making this supposed Fable game, like get that thing out there. Show me, even if it's not ready till next year. Show me that it's there. Show me that Show me that you can hit something with a sword instead of a chainsaw gun. You know, like just
I get it.
Just some kind of variety. Maybe a game with something green in it would be nice. You know, it's just
something that's just not a sci-fi shooter.
Yeah, like anything. Like the fantasy, high fantasy would be a nice change of pace on the Xbox at this point.
Well, Scalebound was kind of there.
Right, and like now it's gone. I mean, even if Scalebound hadn't been all that great, at least it would have been different.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like
I still would have played it.
And they still released State of Decay 2.
Has Platinum ever put out a terrible game though?
No, I don't think so.
A couple mediocre ones.
There's like that B team or C team they have put up some of the licensed stuff, like the Legend of Korra.
Star Fox
great.
was bad.
Yeah, I don't think that was all their fault though.
That Transformers game wasn't great.
It was good.
I would not call it good.
There are people that think that's one of the best games of the generation.
They're insane.
Like, I'm not a defender of that game. I don't think it's all that great. I think it's too repetitive. Devastation, yeah. I think it's too repetitive. But there are Platinum fans who think that's one of the best things they've ever made. I have had that argument multiple times with people. Some of my friends that think, like, no, it's the greatest Transformers. I'm like, no, Fall Cybertron is the greatest game ever made.
People be crazy.
But no, they just think, oh, it's like, look, just because you can juggle something for 20 minutes doesn't mean it's a great game. I'm sorry. But yeah, I would. I think. What was I saying? Oh,
You're talking about Fable and
I was saying State of Decay 2, by the way, just had a patch go up today.
How big was that patch?
It is 20 gigs.
It's which means you're just downloading the game again.
We changed so much, just download the game again.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
So,
act like that first version.
Which honestly, it's about right.
That's fine.
That's about what I was expecting.
Fine with that.
But yeah, when you load up a patch for something, and it pops up a loading bar with a ready to start bar on it, you're like, oh, okay, we overhauled some things.
It needed it.
So maybe now it's not going to be as frustrating. I haven't tried it yet.
So that's what we know of Microsoft at E3 2018 so far.
I mean, presumably there'd be some third-party stuff in there somewhere.
Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, we're just talking about first-party stuff.
Yeah,
we'll get to
like
the third parties next week. But like I said, there's only one way to go, and that's up for Microsoft. It can't get worse. I mean, what's worse than nothing?
No, they could, like I said, it could go sideways.
Negative games, if they we're confiscating every copy of this game.
It could go lateral. It could just be like, well, there's more stuff on the schedule. I just don't want any of it.
Yeah. This is kind of a make or break E3 for Microsoft as well. I feel like they're in danger of falling into third place here if they don't pick it up.
I think they're guaranteed to fall into third place. I mean, the Switch momentum versus the Xbox's lack of it means that Switch is going to pass it.
But this E3 could turn momentum around. But the faith in Microsoft is kind of slipping at this point because it had games that people were interested in, and it just canceled them. So
yeah, well, that was a different management. It was different people in charge, and I think the people in charge now are really trying to turn it all around. But that takes time. I mean, that Microsoft is, even just the Xbox division is a giant lumbering behemoth ship monster.
It's like the Titanic.
Needs to
very slowly turn.
And hopefully this year they have something to show for that. But I think all the Matrick and those guys who wanted to turn the Xbox One into a set-top box more than a video game console, they did a lot of damage.
Absolutely. A lot of rebuilding to be done.
I mean, they had such a stable. They had such a.
But I don't think that has anything to do with their lack of first-party exclusives. I mean, it
has something.
That's just poor planning.
It has something to do with it in the sense that they got rid of a lot of people that were giving them the exclusives they had before. I mean, they had so many. I mean, I guess you'd call it second party almost. Like, there had a lot of that happening with the 360, and it just went away when they decided, it's a set-top box now. We're going to spend 10 minutes on ESPN instead of
TV.
We're going to have the OS designed by people that have never touched a video game.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty clear if you had a launch day Xbox.
Yeah. I still think that Microsoft has the most to gain from this E3. I think of the big three, Microsoft has the clear runway to have a trajectory upwards, to be standing in a much better place after E3 than it is before E3.
Yeah, they just need to have some games.
Yep. And they have to have something.
Yeah.
It's been a long
Even if you're showing me stuff.
It's been a long drought.
I know Microsoft likes to try to stick the whole calendar year, or within the next year. Just show me something.
Yeah. I'll take your trailers at this point.
Look, one of the games you're showing this year was announced in 2014.
Yeah. I don't need gameplay. I'll take trailers at this point. I just need some hope.
Let me know. Yeah, let me know something's coming. Because 98% of the stuff I played on the Xbox One X came out more than 3 years ago.
Yeah, way more than 3. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk next about Battlefield 5. I realize we're a little late on this one. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it because we are late. Unfortunately, it was another case where a game was announced like right after we recorded the last show. It's been over a week now since it was announced, but I still wanted to take some time to talk about it because it is a huge franchise. I will say one thing. It seems like I am falling outside the mean in my excitement level for Battlefield 5. I'm really psyched for it. I saw a lot of people hating on the trailer. I think this is one of the best video game trailers of the year. In fact, I think at Game of the Year awards, this will be one of the trailers I'm going to bring up. People seem so hung up on the fact that it was fake. I did not care at all whether it was real or fake. I just thought it was a great flipping trailer.
What do they mean fake?
They thought it was either completely scripted, which I absolutely agree it is.
It's all in
but
engine.
They thought it wasn't in engine. They thought it was CG.
No, it's purely in engine.
I believe it's
anyone who
in
played
engine
Battlefront 2 on PC knows this is not beyond that engine's capability.
Yeah, I believe that as well, but a lot of people are very quick to hate on this game.
I mean, are you going to throw a grenade and shoot it while a German plane passes and blows up? I mean, no.
Or are you going to toss a grenade right into the cockpit of
Yeah.
a plane? I mean, look, it's obviously scripted.
Oh, of course.
But this isn't anything the
Battlefield
engine can't handle.
No, and they're also trying to kind of, in a very short amount of time, simulate the appeal of what to me was always the appeal of Battlefield, is just the sheer amount of crazy shit that happens. And yeah, it doesn't all happen at once, but once per match or every 2 matches something happens. You're like, oh my god, that would never happen in any other game, kind of thing.
So I see in chat, Glorious War says, "Nah, trailer was bad." I wish we could dial in with him right now so he could explain to us what is bad about this trailer.
I don't know.
This trailer is amazing.
It's a cool trailer. I mean, it's not. I think part of the issue
I
is
think people can't separate, is this a good trailer or is this a good game? I'm just saying this is an awesome trailer for a game. Whether the game is good or not, I have no idea.
it's well cut. It looks nice. There's
Dude, the choreography of what happens is insane.
And you can see, I mean, look, it is choreographed, and like they have a room at DICE where they do that, where they play this stuff over and over till they get what they want. You can even see, where they cut it together in places. If you watch, Sam would have to eventually get back to the part where the V1 rocket comes down as artillery. You'd have to remove the lower third from it, but you'll see a little like kind of the little blur bar when you censor something or whatever. You'll see something like that, and like the little like damage bar pop up right as the V1 rocket hits the ground, and you can see like they've cut together 2 separate clips there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
but
I never thought it was real.
But that's how trailers are. It's like that's what you're supposed to do.
It's supposed to get you excited. And a lot of people are salty that it's not realistic.
Battlefield's never been realistic. Obviously the picture of the 2 guys running around on the horse with a flamethrower has been flying around. But who could forget the moment in the real life Wake Island battle when a bunch of guys slapped a bunch of C4 on a jeep and rammed it into a Japanese tank? Like that, you don't, or when everybody laid down on the wing of a B-17 bomber and had them fly them over and so they could jump out with their self-repacking parachutes.
Right.
It's like you're not here for authenticity. You're here for like the crazy open kind of huge scale multiplayer stuff, and that's what they're trying to get across on this. And I also appreciate that it's kind of bright, it's colorful, it's not the same
style to
it's not the same
not this sterile
it's not the same
military
desaturated
garbage.
Band of Brothers Me Too thing that
No,
like
it
World War II
reminds-
stuff is.
to me, it
they had
seems-
color in 1944, people.
Yeah,
you know that, right? It wasn't black and white and didn't all look like Saving Private Ryan.
I mean, what I'm getting is a big Bad Company vibe, which is something
there is a bit
which
of
is
that.
something people have been begging for like a decade. And now they're getting something similar to it. They're like, nah.
Well, I think part of the problem, if you want to leave aside the people that are just upset because there's a girl in the game.
Yeah, that's really the big problem for a lot of people.
You can see that little bar, that red bar down there. That
it goes
pops
up and
in.
down. Yeah.
Well, no, it pops in right as the explosion happens. If you might have to look at it like on YouTube or something, but you can see there's a cut there. There's an edit. That's the only thing I saw as someone who obsessively watches edits as a producer. But so there's that the arm thing. The arm is directly modeled after an actual 1944 prosthetic arm. You probably couldn't.
No, it's a robot arm.
You probably couldn't hold a sniper rifle too well with it, but it's an actual piece of equipment. As much as the guy with the frickin' samurai sword on his back. I mean, part of that is they're trying to show that there's all this customization in the multiplayer. I think part of the problem in terms of just sort of like, for me watching that trailer as the first thing I see of this game is then I want to know more about it. And while
That's the idea of a trailer, though.
Right, but there was some follow-up, but I feel like they did like kind of like the half-hour spiel about like, oh, this is going to be that, and then we show you that, and that's it.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel
they compare how they debuted Battlefield 5 to how they debuted Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
After Black Ops came out, after that debut, we had 5 or 6 trailers, literally hours and hours of multiplayer footage.
Yeah, I think you needed more. I think that's a good flavor kind of trailer.
Yeah.
But they needed to release gameplay with it to show people like this is what you're going to be playing.
Yeah, that would have been a smarter strategy. But you're right. I think one of the most discouraging things that I've experienced in the last year of covering games was reading the YouTube comments for this trailer. I don't know if I've ever seen a bigger collection of people who have never been laid in my entire life. Bunch of virgins who hate women and think the reason they've never got laid is because of women and not them. How about you get off your computer and go out and meet somebody, and instead of sitting there complaining about a trailer on frickin' YouTube? I was disgusted by the comments on that trailer. I was, for one of the few times in my life, I was ashamed to be a gamer that day, looking at the comments on that trailer. And think about the work that's been put into this game by the people at EA, and have a bunch of troglodytes, to steal one of Adam Sessler's favorite words, go into the comments and just hate it because it had a girl in the trailer. You people need to take a look in the mirror, man, because I'm telling you, if you don't, it's never going to get better. Your life is not going to get better with that attitude. It's going to get worse and worse. Look in the mirror, make a change, because where you're headed right now sucks. Period.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's terrible. Like, I've had some people come at me on Twitter
pretty standard, really. Like,
so awful. So awful. I don't know what's wrong with you people. I'm not talking to people out on the stream. I'm talking about the people on YouTube that just carpet bombed that because it had a girl in it.
well, now you're going to get into all the excuses for like, oh, no, it's authenticity.
No, it's ethics in games journalism.
It just happens to be that like in a game in which people like do the most ridiculous shit on a daily basis in all of the multiplayer, we're all of a sudden concerned about authenticity because there's a girl in the front lines.
Yeah.
Which
Let's talk about the game. We are running out of time because we still have 2 more topics after this one, so we got to get through this quick. Let's talk about some of the actual game changes. 4-player co-op. No paid DLC.
And that's 4-player co-op is another bad company.
It is, absolutely.
Reference to me.
No paid DLC, great. No battle royale, very surprising. To me it was.
It sounds like they might be willing to add something later, though.
Yeah.
Like they were sort of like, oh yeah, we know that's a thing, but like at launch it's gonna da-da-da-da. So like, wouldn't surprise me if you saw some permutation later on.
Yeah,
they have the size for it.
Obviously. Yeah, they're one of the few existing franchises that already has the scale to make something like that happen. War Stories returns. I think we knew about that already before the reveal. Bullet penetration, another
good
hallmark of Bad Company as well.
Definitely missed that in Battlefield 1.
Yep. Health and ammo packs are handled differently. It actually takes like quite a while to use them now. How do you feel about that?
I get what they're after, where they're trying to make it, you know, like health doesn't regenerate fully. It's kind of got like a resistance 1 style thing, where like if you drop below a certain point, I think you only by thirds. I think it's by thirds of the life bar. And so if you want to use a med pack, you have to actually like interact with it, and there's an actual action with it, and like I get what they're after with that, but like I've seen a lot of YouTube takes where they're like, oh, it's gonna force everybody to be tactical, and you have to. No, people are just gonna run into the meat grinder, and you're gonna be alone because no one's paying attention to what they're doing. Yeah, it's like.
But the squad can spawn on you, Matt.
Right. Well, that's not new. It's like I appreciate that they're trying to kind of outthink the exploitation of the systems. But you can't outthink the exploitation. And also, like, part of it's like, oh, like, I mean, I've seen a lot of like emphasis on the idea that like, oh, like it's not gonna be like the Battlefield games where like, like the support guys put down the ammo box and you just automatically get more ammo. You have to actually interact and get the ammo. It's like, well, the reason that ammo box automatically does that, or the health pack automatically regenerates the health in a radius around you, is because you couldn't trust the other players to actually do that shit, and support you properly. So like they made it something that you just throw something down and not worry about it anymore. And now you're back to the whole thing where like now you're gonna have to count on these idiots that you're stuck in a game with, and like it's gonna be you and like your 3 friends, like desperately trying to do the right thing while everybody else is running around with their head cut off. It's like, it seems like it's going to introduce a different set of problems.
No, you're right.
Rather than solve it might solve the ones that they already saw were there, but it feels like you're just shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic in an effort to say, hey, look at all the different things.
Segmented health bar, no full health regeneration.
Yeah.
Both these two are kind of similar. It's like the developers are like, oh, we ran out of ideas, so let's just go back and do things the way that we used to do them, where we figured out that we could find a better way to do them, but people are tired of that now, so we're just going to repeat the whole cycle again.
I like the resistance style. You lose too much health, you lose a chunk.
Lose a chunk of like your permanent health.
Yeah. I like that idea in single player games.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works too well in multiplayer, especially something as frenetic as Battlefield.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know.
Everything old is new again, man.
I guess, but I didn't play enough of Battlefield 1's multiplayer to really be able to judge how that would change things. I know there was a lot of complaints about the guns didn't feel right, or this was too
I'd
much
agree
of a
with that.
grind.
I thought the guns just didn't feel.
I mean, I got that from the campaign, but I didn't play enough against other humans to know one way or the other on that.
I still had a blast with it though. I still played a ton of it and had fun with it. But yeah, I'd agree the weapons didn't feel right. Let's see. Fortifications. You can reinforce destroyed buildings. Destructibility is a huge part of it again. Like Bad Company.
I miss the destructibility from Bad Company. Like the rush mode in Bad Company 2 is some of the most fun I've ever had playing a multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
You're just desperately trying to hold on to your last point. By the end, you start in kind of actually buildings everywhere. By the end, it's just a flat landscape of just blast. Artillery has just flattened everything. That's great. That was great. And it completely changed how you had to approach defending things.
It changed
the
the
game
whole
went on.
game.
It was great.
You go into a house, you weren't safe.
And the idea of being able to build something, obviously there's some Fortnite influence happening there, but I like the idea, the fact that it's in all the modes apparently. I like the idea that you could have, these standard sort of conquest, capture point things, but people could be fortifying a particular point in an effort to kind of make sure we don't lose this one while we go deal with this other one. One of the things that bugs me about multiplayer shooters is how repetitive things get and how everything just becomes by rote at a certain point. And if you've got people building different fortifications that could be something that keeps it fresh much longer.
Absolutely. Look, this is Battlefield Bad Company 2018.
It really
I don't know
seems
how
like
many more hints you need. People have been begging for this game since Bad Company launched. There it is, people. I don't understand why everyone's so up in arms over this. I don't get it. EA delivers what fans have been asking for, and they're like, meh. You can't win.
And they even took all the loot boxes out.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like DICE.
I have a feeling those might come back, but.
No, I think you're going to be microtransactions for but it's going to be for stuff that you want specifically. It's not going to be a random, it's not going to be a slot machine.
Yeah.
Which to me seems more like maybe DICE finally, after the Battlefront 2 debacle, was able to say to EA, it's no, you're not shoving that in our game again. We're going to do this the right way. And they've been very vocal about they're not doing that kind of thing in this one. And bravo. We'll see if EA learns with their other games. But DICE seems to have taken the lesson to heart. So good for them.
More excited for Black Ops or Battlefield?
Oh, Battlefield. First off, I've always liked Battlefield better than Call of Duty. Second, Battlefield's going to have a campaign.
Yeah, Battlefield for me as well. Even though they showed more of Black Ops.
I really liked Battlefield 1's kind of war story idea because it lets you do 3, 4, 5 little missions in this one little section of the war, and you jump over here. You don't need to have an overarching story. You just sort of focus on these different facets of what's happening. I dig that. I like that a lot. I like that approach to things, especially because it lets you highlight lesser-known stuff like the Harlem Hellfighters in Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
Judging by the cover, they might be, I can never remember her damn name, but it looks like they might be focusing on that Scandinavian sniper woman who she had 309 kills, the number 3 sniper of all time or something like that. Yeah. That would be a cool, the invasion of Finland, basically, because people don't know about that.
Right.
The Finland basically had to hold off the Nazis and fight a guerrilla warfare, French resistance style thing, and no one talks about it, because no one. And there were no Americans.
So many battles,
right? But also because there were no Americans involved in that, so we don't make movies out of it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I think it was a great debut. I would say Bad Company is probably my second favorite Battlefield ever, behind Battlefield 2.
I really like. I think the Bad Company.
I love the tongue-in-cheek humor. It was
Bad
just,
Company's they're
was
my
a fun
favorites.
game.
After Battlefield 1942, nothing tops the first
42.
one.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Frankly, I don't know if Battlefield will ever top the Battlefield 1942 demo.
Yeah.
Like just playing Wake Island for
Wake
months.
Island.
Like it was, yeah.
It's crazy.
Battlefield.
I mean, everything was fresh and new that we
Yeah.
hadn't really played a game like that.
Well, I remember seeing that for the first time. It was at Camp EA when they used to do that.
Remember they used to have those? I
Yeah, you
forgot
go around the
about that.
campus of EA and see all the different games and sit through 14 Sims demonstrations. And then we went back to the big cafeteria gymnasium thing they had for food, and they had Battlefield 1942 set up at 4 stations or something on the side of the wall with no signage.
There's people waiting in line.
I remember Sessler was like, "You got to see this thing," and we went over and we never seen anything like it. And the EA people were like, everybody really it sounded like they almost let DICE set that up there just as a favor or something. And I remember we went to an Oakland A's game and they're like, so you think we should double down on the Battlefield thing? And I remember Ryan Vance saying it's you should rent out the carrier in Alameda and have the thing there. And they did that.
They did it. Yeah, I went to that. Yeah.
So the Battlefield came out of nowhere, and it was great. I love Bad Company 2 is one of my favorite lines in all of gaming history, which is when you're trying to because part of the plot is trying to chase down a satellite that's going to crash, and you're about to get to the part where you know it's going to crash, and it comes flaming over the tank you're in, and explodes down probably half a mile away, and the demolitions guy in the group just watches it go and goes, "That is the greatest thing I have ever seen in my entire life." He's like a firebug, kind of obsessed with it was a lot of fun. Those games were a lot of fun. It was and people, it's I play stuff like the Battlefront 2 campaign, and I'm like, why can't you make a good campaign again? I don't get it. You made
different people working.
I guess, but they made 2 great campaigns with Battlefield Bad Company, which was at a time when no one thought they could.
No, you're right.
And then I don't think they've ever matched those again.
No, definitely not in that series.
No.
Campaign-wise, without a doubt. All right, we got to move on. We're up against it here. Although it looks like you guys are hanging tough in the chat. I appreciate it. Next, we're going to talk about Nintendo at E3 2018. One thing I will say is we talked about, was it last week or the week before, where we talked about those sheets that were leaked that showed essentially what the Treehouse was going to play during the live stream and what Nintendo's employees needed to know on the show floor. As time goes on, that looks just better and better. Mm-hmm. Because, look, that came out after we kind of knew about Pokemon Let's Go.
Yeah.
But it was on there. The day after, it broke.
If Yoshi's Flipping Island is real,
Well, we don't know that yet, though.
Yeah, we don't.
But everything else, it
sure sounds like it could be.
There is nothing on those that has been disproven yet.
Yeah.
Nothing. And we just got Fortnite for Switch, which was on there, and now it's been announced.
Thanks, Korean Ratings Board.
Yeah, exactly. It's really starting to look like that stuff was legit.
Yeah.
So with that
I don't think Fortnite on Switch is a giant psychic prediction, but it certainly lends a little credence.
Yeah. And so I started going through Nintendo today, and I was pretty blown away. It has, on paper, as of right now, the best lineup at E3 of the big 3. Without question, it's not even really close. Obviously, the big game for Nintendo Super Smash Brothers. Mm-hmm. Who knows what we're going to get from that? It could be frickin' anything. It could be just a port of the Wii U version. It could be a completely brand new game with all kinds of brand new mechanics.
Yeah, I've seen.
It could just be the old game with a ton of new characters.
I've seen the debates raging about that. I don't know. Everyone makes very good arguments for one side or the other, and I just can't decide. It could be. I'd say it's a 50-50 chance. I'd coin flip it right now.
As to whether it's a new game or
a port of the Wii U version.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards port of Wii U version with maybe a new mode and 15 new characters. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. I mean, there has been enough time to build a new game.
There has, yeah.
But he had kind of gone on record saying he didn't really want to make those games anymore.
Yeah, well, too bad.
Yeah, that's your job, bro. That's what you do. So that's
go talk to Infinity Ward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's undoubtedly its biggest game. There's a tournament going on at E3. We're gonna know everything we could ever want to know and more about the game by the time E3 is over.
Yeah, you think that's their big blowout?
Oh, it is absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's their big game. It's the game that's gonna sell better than any.
Wonder what that booth's gonna look like.
Be cool if they built it like a Smash Brothers stage, wouldn't it? I mean, that's what they do anymore. They build their booth to look like...
I wonder what they would, because like, so they did, their first kind of year of like, oh, we're going to super theme the booth, kind of, it was Zelda.
And
then
last year was Mario.
So this year...
Smash,
but like, which stage do you use? All the stage? You use Kirby? You use Metroid?
What is the one stage that's like generic that they use in all the tournaments?
Final Destination.
That's
the
that's
Melee.
so generic.
Well, that's the Melee stage,
Right.
yeah. Maybe just be a giant hand.
That's what I'm
floating
thinking,
over
just a hand just going like this. Or one that's like hovers above the booth and just comes down like it's going to smash you. That would be pretty awesome. Mario Tennis Aces, public service announcement for those of you who are watching. There is a free demo of Mario Tennis Aces going up this weekend on Switch. In fact, it might be up already, and I'm going to be on playing this weekend to give it a go. If you guys want to square off, hopefully there's some online modes in that demo. I hate about Nintendo. I can't give people my gamer tag. I'm Dinfire, but unless I give you my friend code.
Some friend codes, son.
So silly. If any of you guys want my friend code, just reach out to me on SIFTD or on Twitter or whatever, and I'll give it to you, and we can play this weekend. Not much to say about that one. We kind of know what's up with Mario Tennis Aces.
I do think that looks really good, though.
It does. Yeah, way better than the last one.
Yeah.
For sure. Yoshi's Flipping Island. I wrote it down, damn it. I believe the title's too awesome. It can't be fake.
It feels like authentically cheesy. It could be a real. It feels like
I think it's real.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's real.
But we've seen Yoshi already. It's another side-scrolling platformer.
But it seems like, and like flipping stuff over seems like it would fit for that. Like
well, it's a flip book. Like the way the levels work is like they open up and the stuff flips up. So
it's such a good title. It would be.
I would be really shocked if just some dude came up with that idea.
Yeah.
Like I just really would. Metroid Prime 4, which on that list it was called Metroid Prime Renegade. Considering Retro's not making it, I could see maybe them putting some kind of a weird subtitle on the end of it.
Well, also since it's been like 10 years. Like, no reason to call it 4.
Has it been that long since 3?
I think so.
Wow.
It was on the Wii.
Yeah, it probably has been. That's crazy.
So I see no reason to call it 4, just because like now you're gonna make someone feel like they've missed 1 through 3. Like just call it, give it another subtitle and just make it another game. You know?
Yeah.
It's like you don't call Star Fox 6, you call it Star Fox subtitle.
I mean, it probably shouldn't have been called Metroid Prime either. It should have just been called Metroid : whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, also Metroid Prime
denotes that it's a first-person 3D game.
It's that thing. But it's like, Metroid has never really done that with the numbering except for Metroid 2 Return of Samus.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because everybody thinks Super Metroid is the second one.
Yeah, you're right. It is. A lot of people do think that. You're absolutely right.
They didn't have a Game Boy.
Yeah. I hope we get to see the new Metroid Prime, even though it's not made by Retro.
Yeah, I would hope. I mean, my only thing with Metroid Prime 4 is I'm just worried about what stupid weirdo gimmick they're gonna throw in there.
Think they'll have motion controls for
whatever. I don't care. Whatever it is, it's gonna, or motion controls, or a special controller thing, or some kind of like you gotta raise your Metroids in a frickin' online cell phone app, or like you know what I mean? Like just make a game. Like and it was interesting on Reset era. I saw that people were talking about Star Fox and how the Star Fox games have not sold well beyond Star Fox 64. It's like Star Fox 1.
True.
Star Fox 1 was like 4 million, Star Fox 64 was like 3 million, and then Star Fox Adventure is like 1.3, and then no other Star Fox game has sold more than about 500,000 ever since.
Because they've been bad games. Or
but also because it's as soon as they stopped making them just arcade space shooters,
no one cared.
The sales went off a cliff.
Yeah,
just make another game. Just make a game with modern tech that does what all the things the previous game did. Add a couple new little wrinkles to it and make the game. Not everything has to be some like the Pokemon Let's Go thing. It's like not everything needs a Pokeball controller and a motion controls and the take it over here and put it over here and have it talk to the plant and have your car interfaces with this thing and then you can run over a digital puppy and it's like just make a frickin' Metroid game, people. Like
Sony, they could take some lessons from Sony on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what Sony's doing at this point. It's just making great single player games.
Yeah.
And saying screw all the other crap.
It's like, I mean, I'm hoping it's. I mean, I don't think Odyssey was a perfect example of it, but I hope it's more like that in the sense of, we basically just made a 3D Mario game with one new wrinkle, the hat, and
How great does this
call it a
game
day.
still look, by the way?
Oh yeah.
It's freaking amazing how good that game still
Metroid
looks.
Prime 1 is still one of the best looking games around
It's
if you run it
insane.
through progressive scan.
It is really insane how
They
good that game
future-proof
looks
the
still.
hell out of this series.
Really, I mean, just look at that explosion right there. Unreal. Really good stuff. That's why it pains me so to know that Retro is not making the new one.
Well, I mean, at the very least, it's Bandai Namco making it. At
Yeah.
least they know they have a pedigree they got to follow. They know they.
We'll see.
I mean, they're the ones who made the mediocre Star
Fox
Fox game, though,
Assault or
so-
whatever it was, exactly. Let's see, Bayonetta 3.
Yeah, probably.
Do you care? Vaguely.
I gotta say, I did get Bayonetta 2 and the Bayonetta 1 pack in on Switch, and I played. That's probably the last thing I played on the Switch was when that came out. And
Bayonetta 2 is really short.
yeah,
I was surprised how short it was.
It just didn't grab me. I feel like it's
so weird.
it's so. But I like the weird. It's more like I just don't find the gameplay to be particularly engaging. And frankly, if Devil May Cry 5 is real, I'm more interested in that right now.
Which rumors are swirling that it is. Switch Fire Emblem, which, by the way, when it was initially announced, was announced for release this year.
That'd be nice.
If you go back and look at the original announcement for that, it said coming in 2018.
That'd be
So
nice.
that could come out by the end of the year. It looks like Nintendo may need something big for the end of the year because Smash.
I'm super on board with a Switch Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
If it's a legit Fire Emblem, it's like Fire Emblem Let's Go Heroes or something.
Right.
Like,
Which is possible.
it's entirely possible. It could be another tie-in with their mobile game thing, sure. But like, I'm hoping it's a full-fledged, real, normal, the next installment of Fire Emblem, and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Pikmin 4, you think we're going to see it?
Who knows?
I think I've given up on it at this point.
That's
I
like,
think it may be vaporware. I don't know
like
if it's ever coming out.
two E3s ago, you were saying like 80% chance we're going to see it.
Yeah.
It's like doesn't. I mean, they said it was done, right? You noticed that it was done.
Mostly done, yeah. I think it may just be vaporware. I just don't think it's going to come out.
I guess, but it's like, man, you are not in a position to be picky with your release schedule right now, guys. Like,
I don't know. If we compare Nintendo to Microsoft and Sony, it's going to have a pretty good E3.
E3, but we'll see what the release dates are on these
Yeah.
things. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to play a new Pikmin.
Absolutely. I would love to play a new Pikmin. I don't think we're going to see it at E3, though.
Probably not.
It might turn into another one of those, like a Project Giant Robot, where it ends up being evolved into something else. I mean, that's also a franchise that has never sold particularly well.
Yeah, although you know what I was thinking a while ago, that, you know, there's probably a way to make a pretty cool Pikmin Labo game.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be.
That is a good example of what I was talking about,
Yeah.
how it could be maybe reworked to work with some other kind of technology
I could see that
that
happening.
Nintendo has. That's actually a really good idea. Maybe they should hire you, Matt.
I ain't moving to Seattle for that.
And here comes some conjecture. Star Fox Grand Prix, we've talked about that before.
I feel like there's enough smoke there that there's probably fire.
It's probably
of some
accurate. Whether it's called Grand Prix or not, who knows?
Yeah.
But that is Retro's game, allegedly, reportedly. I'm excited to see that. It's Retro. It's Star Fox. I'm in.
I hope it's more like a score attack thing than like a racing game, though.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, now they're starting to
just
say
make
that
an
it's-
arcade shooter. Why does everything have to be some kind of weird twist?
Well, I don't think it is that, but they are starting to say that it is a little bit more like a traditional Star Fox game than just a racing game.
Like, it's just annoying to me that it seems sometimes it seems like Nintendo takes the wrong lesson from games that don't perform well.
No,
It's like,
you're absolutely
it's like
right.
the lesson from Star Fox Zero is not that people don't want to play Star Fox, is that they don't want to play it with this forced, like, motion control aiming second screen crap.
And people also don't really care about that stupid, like, crab walking.
There's
mech
too much
either.
walking. Yeah,
Nobody cares.
it's a fox in the stars.
Just give us the R-Wing and the Landmaster tank.
It's
That's
not,
really
it's
all
not
we
Walk
need.
Fox.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty excited to check that out. I really hope it's going to be there. I hope that sheet that was leaked is legit. And then Punch-Out, another game that was on that list. I was not a huge fan of the Wii Punch-Out, and this is coming from somebody who loved Punch-Out so much he would steal quarters from his grandma's quarter jar to go play it. So I am a dyed-in-the-wool Punch-Out fan.
Punch-Out made you a criminal.
Yeah, it did. And it absolutely did. And then the Wii version of it that we're seeing right now, it just really did nothing for me.
I liked it for one match.
Yeah.
And then, like, after like 2 matches or 3 matches, I'm like, oh, something's off.
Something was off about it. The characters, even the characters that I recognized from prior games, didn't feel the same. Like Glass Joe, even. I'm like, really? This is Glass Joe? Like, this isn't the Glass Joe that I know from Punch-Out. Do you think is there anything they can do with this franchise, though, Matt? I mean, it's really not a boxing game. It's a pattern memorization game.
Hell, this game was almost a music game.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of music to the combo like
Right.
like that. It had kind of a musical scale thing going on. I don't know.
Is it just one of those franchises that there's just no way to really modernize it, and you're just kind of stuck with what it is?
I think you modernize it too much, and it's not Punch-Out anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying you should turn it into Fight Night or anything,
right.
but like, it might make
this game would also be ripe for DLC, by the way.
Right. Well, one thing that you could do is you could Smash Brothers it. You could just have it be a bunch of Nintendo characters boxing.
Yeah. Well, I want the characters. I want the classic characters. I love those characters. But I didn't like how they were handled in this game. I didn't like any of the new guys that they added, and I didn't like what they did to the old guys. I don't know what studio they were saying is going to make the Switch game, but I hope it's a different studio from the one that made this one. I guess.
Yeah, I don't remember who did this.
Was it Sumo or something? I can't
Sumo
remember.
does a lot.
Somebody in chat will tell us.
Sumo's a very busy company. It seems
like. Vincent is saying in the chat, the strangest thing about it was saying that it had a new battle system, Punch-Out.
Okay.
So, whatever they're going to do to tweak it or whatever. And then, lastly, F-Zero SX. Definitely due for a new F-Zero.
Yes. I think F-Zero is the longest dormant major franchise they have.
Yeah. I think I only included it so that we could run footage of F-Zero GX. I went looking for...
This is another GameCube game that still looks good today.
Yeah. I went looking for the ROM today, and I found it. And I don't know, maybe I won't be playing as much Mario Tennis over the weekend as I thought. Although this game is still just hard as nails.
Oh, yeah.
It took me like 5 races to even be able to stay on the track. Like, I was that bad and that rusty of playing.
Oh, man, this thing, when you get that Mute City track going.
I mean, look at this. Look at this track.
There's
like 30 cars.
I mean, the music.
Yeah, the
music
music,
in this is great.
Yeah, I'm all about another F-Zero if it's as good as this one. Although make it a little easier so I could finish it.
Yeah.
I never actually finished
That's not what
GX.
F-Zero is about.
Well, I've finished every F-Zero but GX. It was just too hard. Sometimes you just go too overboard, I think. But it was AM2 that made it as well, and I highly doubt that AM2 is going to make the new one.
Well, that's the other
I
thing.
doubt Sega's going to loan out one of his development teams again.
Well, that's the other thing you got to remember is like this was kind of an arcade, made for the arcade as well, so like they wanted it to be hard. It was like,
But the story mode wasn't in the arcade, was it?
No, but it was still the same game, just like
the game itself wasn't that hard. It was the story mode that was just brutal. Like I could pass like the Grand Prix and stuff like that. It was finishing the story mode.
I don't think I finished the Grand Prix. Like this game was it wasn't unreasonably hard, but it demanded a lot of you.
You had to practice. You had to memorize the tracks. You had to, and these tubular tracks also made it a lot more difficult because you had to figure out what is actually the inside of the turn when you're looking at tracks like this.
Like you could blow your line like
so easy.
Yeah,
but I still loved it. It was one of those games that I didn't really care if I was good at it or not. I just enjoyed playing it. And I think F-Zero was kind of that way, period.
We went to the press event for that together from when we were up in San Francisco at Tech TV, and I remember like we played it separately because they were like in like the big sit down machines, and I remember we came back together after like 20 minutes or something, and I'm like, holy crap! Like we're both like, I don't even know what to say about this. This is crazy. Like
I still have the bag from that event. I use it for my hockey gear.
To me, this is the exact example of what I'm talking about when I say just make the game better.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, this is just F-Zero, but with the technology of the day like ramped up to 1,000. Like make this Metroid Prime.
No, you're right.
Just make me Metroid Prime, but better.
Imagine if they made an F-Zero for the Xbox One X.
Yeah.
A man can dream.
Well, then
Unrequited dreams.
Then we're in a whole weird territory.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Microsoft trades Rare's games on the N64 Classic for, is make us a F-Zero game on Xbox that no one plays.
Yeah. So that's Nintendo at E3 2018, at least what we know so far. No 3DS stuff. I didn't include any of that stuff, although there's not much at this point. There's like Luigi's Mansion and a couple other stragglers. But
we'll probably see Luigi's Mansion for the Switch too.
Yeah,
the remaster.
That's right. A third of this probably maybe isn't true, or even if it is true, may not show up.
Or it's not this year.
Late cuts are made at E3 all the time where they're
Well,
like, we're going to show this, now we're not going to show
I
it.
don't know. Nintendo's probably chosen this stuff pretty early because they got to shoot the Direct.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably, what's happening here with the Pokemon Let's Go. I mean, they know what's in the Direct already, for sure.
Maybe.
Oh, that thing's cut and been going through rounds of notes back in Japan for a week and a half at minimum.
I don't know.
For sure. Because that thing goes through so many permutations.
Well,
like everybody's got to look at it.
Nintendo involved.
Everybody's got to look at
But
it.
that doesn't mean it's not too late to
everything.
cut something out, though. They could very easily just cut a segment out of the Direct.
But I feel like Nintendo, they got their plans and they execute their plans, and the stuff probably doesn't change too much. I mean, that's one of the reasons of having the Direct is like you know exactly what you're putting out.
Yeah. One thing I love about E3 rumors, whether they're true or not, is that it gets you really excited. And like all these leaks and these rumors about Nintendo have got me really jacked up.
What do you think about the people
I'm more excited about Nintendo showing than any other platform holder.
What do you think about the people that are like, it's ruining E3? Like there's no surprises left.
There are going to be surprises left, guaranteed.
I feel like we got spoiled a little bit by the year where they revealed Shenmue and Final Fantasy
VII in the same year.
In the same conference.
I mean, that's just not the way it usually
It's not how
goes.
life is.
It's not. It's not the way it is. I mean, when you get those years, you got to embrace them,
Right.
wrap your arms around them, feel their warmth, and realize that you're not going to get that every year.
So
it's just not going to happen.
Usually you're going to get something closer to 2006's Sony event.
Yeah.
Ridge Racer.
Yeah, the giant enemy crab for massive
Ridge
damage.
Racer. I feel like people, everybody knows those memes and those running gags. I feel like the part where they made Dylan Job stand up there and wiggle the 6-axis around like a madman playing Warhawk to prove that Warhawk can be controlled that way is an underrated moment.
Or the one Konami press conference, the whole thing.
1 million troops.
Yeah, 1 million. That was comedy gold the whole way through. And
that was
there's Jamie Kennedy doing the Activision press conference. I mean, there's just scores and scores of great E3 moments, and I promise you, there's going to be some new ones created this year. So don't get down and
don't miss that Devolver conference.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get down and get all bummed out, worried that this E3 is not going to have surprises or memorable moments. It absolutely is going to. I just use like these leaks and this stuff to just get jacked up and pumped up because there's a lot of work ahead for me for the next week and a half getting ready for the show. So let's move on to our last topic of the show. And I have to do this with a caveat. I'm sure you guys saw Vampyr and like, oh my God, Vampyr, I've been waiting for it. No one's been talking about it. Well, I'm under embargo, so I cannot share my opinion. It's so weird. I cannot share my opinion on the game, but I can discuss what the game has or does not have, or how it functions or does not function.
Oh, so we get an objective game review at last.
Yeah. Well, I have to mind my P's and Q's here because I'm not supposed to share my opinion. That's why you haven't seen any reviews for it yet. They're embargoed until like Tuesday, I think it is, like Monday night at midnight for Tuesday.
It comes out on Friday?
Game comes out on the 5th.
Yeah. Oh, the 5th.
Yeah.
So that's Tuesday.
Yeah. So it's embargoed until midnight, basically, the minute
that doesn't tell me there's confidence there.
Well, I can't tell you whether you should have confidence or not, Matt.
This thing's on my fantasy team.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. We're playing all kinds of mind games. This is funny.
I had some faith in these people.
Yeah. So Vampyr, it is an action RPG from the team behind Life is Strange, which I know may sound strange, but it's actually done action games in the past. Not great ones, but it has done action games in the past. And it is an action RPG in the truest sense. The combat is full-on like hack and slash, really. And the RPG elements are pretty deep. It starts out, you're looking at the opening cinematic right here. You play as a doctor in London in 1918. And as the game begins, he wakes up in this graveyard-like place and has no idea what's going on. He's just like, what? Why am I here? What happened to me?
You're a vampire, bro.
And that's pretty much what happens. He figures out very quickly that he's a vampire, bro. And because he's a doctor, it puts a very I gotta make sure I don't share my opinion here. It puts I can't say interesting, it puts a twist on the whole concept of, hey, this is a vampire, but he's a doctor. So he has like this care for other people to make sure that they're well, and if they're harmed, to make sure that they're healed and they're repaired. Yet
he's very careful to sterilize the bites.
Right, he is the one wreaking a lot of the havoc in the game, and it creates this weird dichotomy of this lead and protagonist who is completely torn and tortured between what his life was before and what his new life is as a vampire. The game is what I've played. I've played about 4 hours. And this B-roll does not go past the first 2 hours, by the way, so don't freak out and worry about spoilers. We're also very smart to cut out any cutscenes that might give away any plot twists, so don't sweat it. The game is very linear so far of what I've played. It's not an open world action RPG where you can just go anywhere and there's fast travel systems. It's a very guided experience so far where you're just kind of going from one waypoint to the next, and it's kind of leading you by the nose. The combat, the way it works is you have two choices essentially. You can use a two-handed weapon, or you can use one weapon in one hand and one weapon in the other. Two-handed weapon obviously is for a big melee weapon, or you can choose to use a gun and a sword, or a stake and a sword. And the way those things work is the stake will stun enemies. The gun obviously just shoots them, but you have no bullets. Like ammo conservation is like really, really important in this game. Like the ammo is really hard to come by, and a lot of times you have to craft it. You're not just really handed bullets. So the stake is pretty handy. If you attack with the stake first, it'll stun the enemies, and then you can either follow up with your sword or whatever melee weapon you have, or you can bite. And biting is really important. You can't see it yet because this is literally like the first 10 minutes of the game where you've just figured out you're a vampire and everybody wants to kill you because they already know you're a vampire and you're just trying to run away. But if you look at the bar on the top left, now you can see. So now there's a second bar. So the first bar is health. Surprise, surprise. Second bar is stamina. So anytime you attack or you sprint, that will go down. A third bar eventually appears underneath that, and that's the blood meter. And so you can find rats running around and eat them, and they'll boost up your blood a little bit, but where you get most of the blood is obviously by feeding on human beings. And that's another thing you can use the stake for. So if you first attack with that stake, it will stun them, and that gives you a chance to go in and bite. And then you can bite and drink blood, and that fills up what is the third bar that you still can't see yet. Once you've built up your blood, that's when you can start using like the real vampire powers. And the vampire powers are all tied into an absolutely ginormous skill tree. I mean, huge. That's what I was saying when this isn't just like an action game with light RPG elements. This game, in my opinion, strays more towards the RPG than the action game. And I can't share why, because that would be me sharing my opinion on the game. But in my opinion, it strays more closely.
You just did it.
Yeah, it strays more closely to an RPG than an action game. And so the way the vampire abilities work is with the shoulder buttons. Once you've built up your blood meter and you have enough blood, you can use the vampire powers. And look, I chose like the claw attack was like the first one that I chose. But you can choose to boost almost anything. You can choose to boost your attacks. You can choose to boost how much blood you use when you attack. All of it is a part of the skill tree. And the skill tree is huge. In the limited amount of time that I've played it, I've had plenty of opportunities to level stuff up, choose things to sort of become a part of my arsenal as a vampire. One thing that is a little strange is part of the game is... Oh, I just shared an opinion. Part of the game is finding safe houses. Once you find a safe house, that's where you go to level up. So you lay down on the bed, and that is where you can go in and kind of tweak all the stuff and spend your points however you want to. What else can I tell you without breaking embargo? Story-wise, cinemas are almost all real-time cinemas using the in-game character models. The writing is of the time period. It's so hard to talk about something and not say whether something's good or not. The writing is of the time period. There are some cinemas that are just done with like animated stills that aren't actually fully done in polygonal graphics. There are conversation trees in the game. So far, I've not been able to tell whether they really have any sort of impact later on. One thing I have noticed is it doesn't seem like you can fail the conversations. You can take a conversation in a certain way, and you can tap a button and actually go back. Here you're seeing like the leveling up for the first time and the active and the passive skills. But you can see on the left there, that's like you can see the claws are the first one that I end up choosing. But then on the right, there's the passive stuff where it's like how quickly will my stamina refill and things like that. And once you select one of those, then you go down a whole other rabbit hole. So for each one of these options you're seeing right here, when you go to the next screen, there's like 5 or 6 levels of that you need to go through before you've kind of maxed it out. So the RPG stuff in this is absolutely no joke. This is not just an action RPG with, hey, you can craft in there. But it does have crafting as well. You can craft brand new weapons. You can craft brand new melee weapons. You can craft ammo for your guns. I'm pretty surprised by this game, to be honest with you. Like, I really figured with a small studio that a lot of the elements of the modern action RPG would have to be dialed back a little bit, but based upon what I've played, that is absolutely not the case. It is every bit as robust as any other action RPG as far as its systems are concerned. The rest of it, I can't really talk about. So,
what is without drawing a comparison of quality?
Yeah.
Can you maybe make a comparison to another game that plays like it? Because I have a hard time looking at it and being like, okay, this is like what?
First of all, Matt, there are no Vampyr games. Why is that? Don't you think that's bizarre?
Because Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines made it all redundant.
But, I mean, look, that was a good game.
Yeah.
But think about it, Matt. There has not really been another Vampyr game since then.
That was the Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver stuff. Those are...
Was that after Bloodlines?
around the same time.
Yeah.
But they definitely, I mean, that went to like 2004. I was after Bloodlines.
Yeah.
Blood Rain...
Yeah, it's kind of vampire-ish, but that was from 2 generations ago.
I mean, Castlevania, you're not
It's
playing
just amazing to me how popular vampires are in pop culture, and there are no vampire video games. Yeah. So just the fact, the whole blood-sucking part of this, and the fact that you are... The other part of it, too, here's another really cool detail in the game. Oh, I said it's cool. I shouldn't have, but maybe if I say good stuff, it's okay. One thing that's cool about it is when you meet people in the game, if you court them and become their friend for an elongated period of time, they become juicier targets, for lack of a better phrase. So the more you court a human being, the better their blood becomes. Like later on in this B-roll, you'll see there's well, we may not get to it, but you'll see there's enemies like in a room, and you can scan it, and you can see how good the blood is in each enemy for you, and how much it will replenish based upon, and then if you talk to people and befriend those people, their blood becomes better for you to drink. It's you're right though. No, I cannot think of another action RPG that's like this game. The vampiric elements and the blood sucking in it makes it completely different from anything else. Obviously, you can watch the combat and see the combat kind of looks the same. The tree, the skill, talent tree looks kind of the same. But the aesthetics of being a vampire changes the dynamics of this game, of the genre significantly. So no, I would say that there really isn't another action RPG like this one currently.
Because they don't make stuff like this really much, and not just the vampire thing, but kind of the standard action RPG. I'd say like Mars Warlogs and the Technomancer. That's from those.
Technomancer was, when you asked a game to compare it to, that was one that came to mind. But but see, I can't explain why I didn't say it. Ultimately, I decided not to mention that game for a reason.
I mean, I like the Mars, because Mars Warlogs and Technomancer are the same series. Yeah. Not that the titles give that away very well.
You can see also you have like you can teleport, you can use vampire vision to track.
There is Eurojank to all hell in those games, but I like what they're doing because they're just not a game type that's made much. Yeah. And it used to be like, there used to be tons of games like that. They used to be like, that was like kind of bread and butter on the PlayStation 2 to some degree.
No, you're right. But they've all gone away.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of a, I don't want to say B-level game, but it's certainly built on a much lower budget, but it has a lot of the same features of games that were built with much bigger budgets, without a doubt. Obviously, you can see the graphics for yourself to realize what the presentation is, or the production values are. It is a controlled experience, like I said. What I've played so far, you're basically going down a cattle chute most of the time. There's a couple places where the path may branch a little bit, but it doesn't go off into some other world or anything like that. It's a very...
Even as someone who's a big open
Here
world...
you can see, I'm checking out the blood quality of people that I've met. And as you develop relationships with them, the quality of their blood for you will go up.
That's a really interesting way to...
It creates a weird dynamic because as you befriend these people, you are growing closer to them, but they are also becoming much more inviting food. And there's all kinds of little stuff like this in the game. Here's the crafting bench.
That is some serial killer grooming action there. Like, it's disturbing.
Yep. And again, he's a doctor. So he's sworn this oath to help people and heal people, yet he is the one who's putting them in harm's way. So I hope you guys can get the vibe I'm trying to throw out about this game based upon what I was allowed to tell you about it. We will talk about this game on next week's show, much more in depth, and Matt will be able to jump in as well. I'm assuming he's going to give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, this has been on my radar for quite some time.
Yeah.
Both because I like the subject matter and because I like action RPG stuff and because I like Don't Nod.
Yep. So there you go. That's Vampyr. It's coming out for pretty much everything. I think it's not announced for Switch yet, although I'm guessing it probably eventually will.
It doesn't look like it would have a problem running on Switch.
Nope. You said it, not me. Thanks, Kyle, for the assist on that one. So with that, it's time for our trailer of the week. There were a lot of great trailers this week, but it was another one of those cases where we wanted to talk about the actual games, because believe me, people, if we didn't talk about Battlefield 5, that Battlefield 5 trailer would have been trailer of the week. But we did talk about it, so we had to go for something else. And this week, it is the debut trailer for LEGO DC Super Villains. Get those questions in the chat. Let it roll.
The villains are coming! Where are the superheroes?
Where did I park my car?
Panic has gripped the streets of Metropolis, but who will save the city now?
Citizens, remain calm. Everything is under control. The control of super villains.
Hiya. What? You ready, Mr. J?
Everything is not okay.
It's good to be bad. Maybe you'd like to join us.
Who, me?
No, not you, dummy. I'm talking to the other guy.
Well, there you go. I also just realized that I believe running that trailer in the show is going to throw up a flag on YouTube, because Warner Brothers is another one of those companies that are pretty hardcore about it. But whatever.
Running out of ideas for the LEGO games, boys.
Wait, people are talking about Shane better cut out this segment for the upload.
They think you gave opinions.
Did I?
No more than, I mean, I see people talk about preview stuff like that, and like there's like, oh, they hint at stuff. It's like, I don't think it's that hard line.
What opinion did I give?
I don't know. You said interesting or weird. I don't know.
I thought I did pretty
Close
well.
enough.
I
don't
guess
think it
not.
matters.
Well, I'm going to
I
run
think-
it.
I
It's
think-
going into the upload.
I think some people who don't work in this field may think it's more strict than it really is.
Oh, got you. That's true. W. Matthews, sounds like Shane never heard of Masquerade Bloodlines. I absolutely have. Why would you think that? It's a classic.
Because you said there were no vampire games.
Oh. Well, that game is like 12, 14 years old?
About that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about now. There are no vampire games now.
People still play that game now, though.
Yeah, because it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. We'll actually answer W. Matthews' question, because we answer one of your questions every single episode. Do you think Let's Go Eevee Pikachu is more what they could build in 14 months, given the CEO of the Pokemon Company admitted he did not think the Switch would do well? Also, Gale of Darkness isn't considered a mainline Pokemon game. It lacked major elements like breeding.
EV, IVS, breeding. Yeah.
Much of Pokemon is its post-game, not its story. I don't know that I would agree with that, but
Well, the entire Pokemon community would. So that's just how they do it.
the post game
yeah.
is more important than the game.
Oh yeah. Like
what is the post game?
Like doing all like once you finish the story, there's all the extra gyms you need to do, or like whatever the final 4 stuff are, and then like
I always
leveling
thought
up,
you always have to do that to finish
leveling
the game.
up all your Pokemon, and like maximizing your Pokemon, breeding the Pokemon to get the best versions. Like there's people, people play for hundreds of hours after they finish the game.
Screw that, dude. After 60 hours of that campaign, I am done.
No,
Those games are gigantic.
Pokemon fans put 300-400 hours in those things. No
They're insane.
question.
Time to move on, folks.
They're like 12. They have no money.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I would have played them that long.
That's
if
a good
I'd been
point,
that age.
actually. You're right. I can't read the name because it's purple on dark blue, but the question is, what is your worst memory from E3?
That's Justin Horman.
Well, or any other gaming convention? Was it being overworked or tired? Have you ever had a really bad experience with someone presenting something at E3?
I mean, there's been a couple where I've been so tired I don't remember anything. That's just kind of part. That's just sort of part of the deal.
I mean, I don't
though.
think working hard and being tired is a bad part of. It is a bad part of E3, but it just is what it is. It comes with the territory.
I think the closest thing to that would have been when one time I had to walk a couple of the girls in our team back to the hotel so they could change for another shoot later in the day. And that was back when downtown was a little rougher than it is now.
Not all that long ago.
And we took a wrong turn, I guess, down, and like we were walking down basically the heart of Skid Row. And I'm not to say that is automatically dangerous, but it was just like we were walking down and it was just like totally silent and the clacking of the girls' heels on the and I'm just like.
Well, it's also weird too, going from like E3
Yeah.
Wonderland where everything's cool, and then suddenly you're like in Skid Row.
I was just sort of waiting for the switchblade or something.
yeah.
You know, just like,
The
I was
shiv.
waiting for the mugging or something, but it didn't happen.
No.
That was the closest. Otherwise, it's just like the worst thing is like somebody got too drunk.
Yeah.
Fight broke out. Somebody pushed somebody in a pool at the Standard, like or the top of the W. That's when the fun stuff happens.
That's the good stuff. That's not the bad stuff.
the after party. I think maybe it was 2006. I remember.
In Santa Monica?
No, that was 2007. 2006 was the super crowded LA Convention Center that convinced them to move it.
I don't think so. I think 2006 was Santa Monica.
2007 was Santa Monica. I remember that. Pretty sure. Because 2006 was the introduction of the Wii. Wasn't it?
2006 was the infamous PlayStation press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means it wasn't at Santa Monica.
No.
Even though they had press conferences still that year.
They did, but like
Microsoft was in like a football field.
Microsoft was at the Santa Monica High School
Yeah.
Stadium.
Yeah.
And that was the year after the PlayStation 3 and all that stuff. Because I remember we were. I didn't get to go to the PlayStation 3 reveal one, and then the second year I got to go to that 2006 one, and then 2007. I don't even remember what that was.
Yeah.
Because 2005 was the reveal and the Killzone thing, and then 2006 was the crazy enemy crab,
Yeah.
and then I don't remember what 2007's Sony was.
Yeah, I don't either.
So I mean, 2007 was that kind of overall suck because of how much travel there was, but I remember 2006. There was a couple points where like there was so much crowding on the floor, like we couldn't get the camera crews through.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And like everything was running late, and we were live, and like nothing was getting done on time, and it was just like we could not.
Once you get behind on
Yeah.
a live broadcast like that,
So that
your
was-
jaws
Yeah,
digging.
so I'm not saying that was a bad time, but it was the hardest E3. 2006 was the hardest E3, I think, just in
Yeah.
terms of like, it was so packed, and you couldn't get. And also, it was like the next time we did an E3 that was that packed, it was we had smaller cameras.
Yeah.
Like you forget, like back then you had to roll a cart, like a giant cart with all the camera
Yeah.
equipment through the hallway, and you just
And
couldn't
Pelican
get it
cases,
in. Yeah.
and yeah. My worst E3 memory is E3 1999. It was the first year, was it 99 or 98?
99 was my first E3.
It was the first year that I came to LA for E3. I had gone to Atlanta before.
That would be 98.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to school in Philadelphia. I was running my site, Street Level Gaming, and I had saved up. Literally, I had taken out extra loans, student loans, to be able to afford to go all the way to LA for E3. and I didn't have a credit card or nothing. I went to go to the airport. I had cash in my wallet, a lot of it, like $1,400 in cash or something like that. And I go to the airport. I'm flying Continental Airlines. I don't know if they even exist anymore.
I think they got absorbed by somebody.
Yeah, by somebody. And sitting at the gate, waiting to go. They call us. We get on the plane. I sit down in my seat, and I do the pocket check, and my wallet is gone. And I literally almost had a heart attack. Like, you have that feeling, that wave of heat that just comes across your body when you're like, oh, crap. That's happened to me. And I look out the little window, and I can see my wallet sitting on my chair. And we were starting to taxi out. They're like, everybody's remained.
Your chair in the terminal?
What?
Your chair in the terminal?
Yeah, at the gate. I could see it sitting on the chair. And so I was like, thank God, oh my God, it's still sitting there. They're like, we're taxiing out to the runway. I didn't give a crap, dude. I took off my seatbelt and I ran up and I'm like, oh my God, I just lost all my money. I can see it. It's sitting right there. I'm like, can you call the gate and tell them to get it? And they're like, okay, go sit down and we'll handle it. So I go and sit down. I am flipping out. Everybody on the plane knows what's going on because I was like adamant about it. And so everyone's like worried, like, oh gosh, I can't believe that happened to you, blah, blah, blah. We take off. They come back. They're like, they got your wallet. It's safe. It's at the gate. It's going to come on the next flight out to LA. You're good to go. And I was like, thank God. I had no money, not a penny on me. Flying to Los Angeles for the first time. I've never been west of the Mississippi before then. And some guy sitting across the aisle from me gave me $20 so I could get a cab to like my hotel. Like that's how bad it was.
Wow.
So we land, I go to the desk, they're like, yes, it's coming on the next flight. You're gonna need to wait here 3 hours for it to show up. I was like, whatever, okay. So I sit there and I wait. It actually ended up being like 5 hours. Flight comes in, they have no idea what I'm talking about. They're like, we didn't get a wallet. No one gave us a wallet. And I'm like, I'm in LA with $20. That's all I have. And like my rucksack or whatever. And I asked them, I'm like, is there another? They're like, there's no more flights coming into LA from Philadelphia. And the next one won't be until tomorrow morning. So you just need to go do your thing and figure it out. And exactly. So I took that $20. I got a cab ride to my crappy hotel. Believe me, it was crappy. And went and called my mom. And I was like, Mom, I lost all my money. I have nothing. I have nothing to eat. I'm in loss. My mom like had a heart attack. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're in LA and you have no money. My mom wires me money for Western Union. I have to walk literally like 5 miles from my hotel down to my USC to go to a Western Union in a very rough neighborhood to get money that my mom wired to me. She wired me like $200 or $300. I ended up having to live on that the whole rest of the week. And my wallet never came.
Wow.
I get back to Philadelphia and I go to get my wallet. No, actually, while I was in LA, my wife goes and tries to figure out what's going on. She was just my girlfriend at the time. They give her the wallet, all the money's gone. Yep. And so, yeah. And so I lost like $1,400, and that's my worst E3 story. Everything else has been awesome. Otherwise, I really have no bad E3 stories.
Yeah.
Just my first time coming out to LA.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all circumstantial stuff, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that was Continental stealing my money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what happened. Like, one of their employees stole the money out of my wallet and put the wallet back in the box. You can't track cash.
Yep.
So, there you go. That's my bad E3 story. We'll take out time for maybe one more question. Shane, blink twice if you recommend Vampyr. Can't do it. Can't do it. I'm not blinking for the rest of the show now. Do we have any other questions, or is that it? Oh, here's one. Glorious War. If Microsoft doesn't deliver at this E3, should there be a leadership change? Bye-bye, Phil Spencer.
There might need to be a come to Jesus meeting, but I don't think you want to change leadership at this point.
I absolutely do. I think Phil Spencer, I like Phil Spencer. I think he's a great guy. In fact, probably one of the most humble executives in the entire industry, but I absolutely think he should be fired. I think he should have already been fired.
I think it's too late, though.
Too late for what?
Because now then you got to start over with a whole new management. You're going to delay it even more
Just
years.
him. You don't have to fire everybody. But it's his fault that there's no exclusive software for Xbox. It's his job.
Because he just didn't move on it fast enough?
It's his job to make sure that there's always something in the pipeline coming. And again, I love Phil, but yeah, I absolutely believe, especially if after this E3 there's nothing to really talk about, absolutely he should be canned. I've said it on the show before. I thought he should have lost his job a while ago. So easy for me to say sitting here talking on camera on a stream on Twitch. But I don't know. I've been in the industry a long time. I don't think I've ever seen a platform with a dearth of exclusive content like we've seen for Xbox One. I just haven't. And the games that are coming are just repeats of stuff we've got before. So absolutely, I think that they would need a change after this E3 if things don't look like they're turning around. So there you go. Yeah, we went over. This might be our longest episode ever. 3 hours and
3 and a half? I think we've gone longer than that a couple
maybe.
times.
We did our best. I knew this episode was going to be insane.
I mean, there was that time I think we argued about No Man's Sky for like 90 minutes.
No, you're right.
It was like,
Was that show longer than this
that
one?
was long.
Was it?
I think so.
Yeah. So I knew it was going to be a long show. I just knew we had a lot of topics to get through. E3 is just a week and a half away, people. Can you feel the power? I'm feeling the power.
Call me when you get there.
I'm getting excited. I hope you guys are too. E3 plan should be going out probably on Monday. I'm working on all that stuff right now as far as what we're going to be doing, what the schedule is. That'll be up on SIFTD in the next couple days, I promise. A new dossier will be up soon that'll go through all the games that are coming out in June, although June is pretty light compared to May, weirdly enough. What else I got? I think that's it, man. We're just in full-on rush mode for E3 at this point. We're going to be here for you guys. We're going to do some great stuff at this E3 that we haven't done before. So I hope you guys, those of you who stuck with us in Europe, you're awesome because it's like 5 or 6 in the morning. Those of you who stuck with us on the East Coast, you're also awesome because it's late for you guys. Everybody else, thank you for being on the stream. Thank you for your support. We love you guys very much. GameFace is up and out.